Hello everyone and welcome to the Good Old Gamer Live. So this is the second episode, and before I do a whole big spiel, I'm going to wait until you guys let me know if you can actually hear me or if there's any other issues, because of course there are when you're doing live streams. So welcome, and to answer Nathan's question, will there be a GOG Minecraft server when I ever decide to play Minecraft? So I guess that'd be fair, because I've never played it and really am not planning on it. So just waiting for you guys to let me know if you can hear me and if everything's okay, because I don't want to redo the whole thing all over again. I guess we're good. Either that or everybody's hands are busy. You know, Connor's not on, but, you know, I like to look good for you guys sometimes. This isn't one of them. PS1 Freak. I didn't fall asleep this time. Nice. Hey, look at that. Sounds and voices work. It's fantastic. All right, awesome. So today we're going to be doing what we should have been doing the other day, and it should have been uploaded as main channel content today. My sponsor wasn't too thrilled about that, but I'm like, deal with it. So if you guys weren't here for the last one and didn't watch the video afterwards, we wanted to test the i3-12100 with some GPUs to see if the 1080 Ti still holds up here today. And yeah, due to the fact that I had a cheapo Gigabyte B660 motherboard, we couldn't do that. Stability was a major issue. So I went down to my local Best Buy and bought some stuff. So we're going to go ahead and kind of start with that. I'm going to show you what's changed on the test setup for today. And then we'll just get right into it, guys. We'll get these benchmarks going. So, all right, I'm going to switch on over and move on over here. And so you guys can see, new motherboard. I went with the MSI. This is the Z690 Pro-A or Pro Z690-A. Whichever way you want to look at it, this worked just fine. So once I got this board in, I dialed in all the settings that I had before on the Gigabyte that were working, and then they suddenly decided not to work. They worked just fine on this. I was able to tune it up a little bit better, but overall, this is basically the system that I wanted to use. I also swapped out the stock cooler because that I did originally. I used a better cooler, then I used the stock cooler on the stream. So I tried the Deep Cool Gamax 400. I was like, all right, let's see if the cooler made a difference. It didn't, obviously, but I figured might as well use it. I already had it out. And then last night, because we're not going to have time to run through the entire suite of benchmarks, so I already did the benchmarks on the 1080 Ti. I don't know if that'll be in focus because we're getting pretty close to the camera, but those numbers were already done. If you are a member, Discord or Patreon, or on YouTube, I was doing the benchmarks last night while I was chatting with you guys, so you guys already knew that. So we're going to kick things off with the RTX 3060. We had some data because I needed to provide some value in the last video for you guys. So we already have kind of a general idea of where these things should land, but the real X factor will be for the RX 6600 because AMD came out with a preview driver with massive performance increases in a lot of the games that we'll be testing. So yeah, I think the 6600 might have a shot at tying or possibly even beating the old champ, the 1080 Ti. As we saw in Watch Dogs last time, it actually beat it, which surprised the hell out of me, to be perfectly honest. And supposedly, it's getting an even bigger bump. So, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get this show started, boys. All right, so moving on over to this. Let me switch my monitor on there. Get that knocked down. And all right, so I made a nice little chart so this way we can see the progress as we're going and we can very easily compare numbers. Let's see. Before I jump into it, let's see what you guys are saying here in the chat. We got, sorry, it's really, I'm just going to call you Scar because that first part of your name is just a little difficult for me to say right now. I haven't been sleeping a whole lot because I've been doing a lot of work, and definitely you're going to have to stretch these streams out. So I was thinking about that here today because I did Techonomics yesterday and I did the other stream the day before. That's kind of a lot. So from now on, I'm going to do Monday and Thursday. That's going to be the game plan. I'm going to toy with it. I really want to do Monday, Friday, but I want to keep Fridays open for my wife so we can do like date nights and stuff. But it's going to be a little while as our second son will be born soon and we'll be really busy with that. So I don't think that's going to be that big of a deal in the interim, but I think Monday, Thursday be all right. That might become Monday, Friday, but Tuesday is going to be out, so this way I can space things out a little bit better. Anyway, so here are the numbers that I came up with yesterday, so we'll kick off with that. So this is the 1080 Ti numbers. You guys voted. You wanted to see these two live over this one, which is interesting, but hey. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, we had 115 average, and then we had 86 on the 1% low. These are all done at 1080 high preset. So I didn't alter the preset at all, even though normally I would. I would change the AF settings or TAA or turn off motion blur. Just so you guys can replicate at home if you want to, you can go ahead and check that out. Cyberpunk 2077, we have 66 on average, and then 52 on the 1% low. Watch Dogs Legion, 99 and 77. Doom Eternal, 233 and 105. This really is kind of annoying because the part of the benchmark that I use, it just has a loading stutter that always kills 1% lows. Doesn't matter what you have, it's just a loading stutter. I am going to be getting a Gen 4 PCIe for testing. Maybe that'll help that out a bit, but yeah. I'm thinking I need to find a different spot in Doom for testing. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, this is a new one. I added in a few games because I wanted to stretch this out because this was way more competitive than I thought. So I was like, let's try a few extra games. So this way there's more data. So we got 90 and 59 on that one. Far Cry 5, 155 and 120. And then Horizon Zero Dawn at 112 and 69. Witcher 3, 149 and 112. And then StarCraft 2 at 267 and 196. So that's, I mean, it's holding up pretty good. But once again, this is at 1080p. When this thing came out, it was kind of a 4K card. Realistically, it was 1440p. But if you look at these numbers, anything that's kind of more modernish, I'd say anything that's 2018 or newer, the 1080 Ti is now relegated to basically a 1080p card for me. I like that 120 FPS mark, but as we talked about in the last video, a lot of you guys are cool with 60, and a lot of people are actually, surprisingly, a lot of people are cool with sub 60 FPS, which is strange. All right, so before we get into it, just to show you the difference a motherboard can make. First off, I didn't have a single crash or issue. And second off, let's go ahead and run this latency test here so I can show you what we're working with. Because obviously you can't overclock a 12100 unless you get a special board and whatever. I'm not dealing with all that. And most of you guys, if you're buying this thing, you're not. But you can tune memory. So this is what we're working with. Sorry, it just takes a sec. All right, so we're sitting at 48.8 nanoseconds on our latency. That's pretty damn good considering the absolute best is 43. So once I hit that, I was like, that's good enough. My goal is basically under 50 on the Intel platforms, and you're fine. I mean, you're not going to see much, if any, of a difference if you push it those extra, like, 5 nanoseconds. The big thing is by tuning the memory bandwidth did go up about 5 gigabytes per second. So even running 3600 CL14 by itself, we were only at about 50. So further tuning got us another 10% on our memory bandwidth. So there's some gains there. So with that, the 12100 is definitely not going to be a bottleneck for us here, guys. Not on these cards. And then as mentioned, and you already saw, but I'll just load it up, we have the RTX 3060. I'm using the 512.59 drivers. And yeah, let's get going and see what you guys are talking about in the chat. Welcome, Chirpy. Hub sucks at optimizing their systems. Well, most of the guys do. My argument, and if you guys are not subscribed to the Techonomics podcast, link is down below. Make sure you're subscribed over there. I think most of you guys are. But Ivan will be joining me on Saturday. Paul will be at a wedding. And that's basically going to be the main topic. And personally, I think the way that Hub does it makes sense for the majority of people. Because the majority of people, you're lucky if they hit XMP. So, you know, that's kind of the crowd that they go for. And their 50-game benchmark makes sense for those people. So there's definitely some value to it. However, we'll go more into it then. It's definitely one of those things that I could go on a long tangent about that. Especially after the 6950 XT came out. I kept scratching my head. I'm like, why? These numbers do not jive. All right, so I should probably get some benchmarks going instead of just rambling on and on and on. So we'll start with Watch Dogs. I like it because it's a canned benchmark, and it's actually a really good indicator of what's going on. Scales really well with memory frequency, bandwidth, latency, CPU clocks, GPU clocks, all that stuff. So we'll just start here, and that'll give us a pretty good sort of a baseline of what we're looking at. We got Dr. Fresh. Come on, guy. We got to put you on Minecraft. I'm 9 minutes behind in time, by the way. Okay. I mean, oh, I guess you're watching the beginning, the intro. Did I waffle on for that long? Yeah, I did. Man, this is why I'm better with a co-host, but, you know, I just figured, hey, you guys can hang out. I got to run these benchmarks anyway. Patrons and members, they got access to chatting with me exclusively yesterday. So if you want to support, that is a perk that you get. When I'm not live streaming, I'll be in there. So this way, you know, benchmarking is kind of boring when you're just sitting there like looking at a screen, just watching numbers. So might as well chat with people, right? Does memory speed and cache even matter for emulators, or is it just raw clock speed and IPC? Well, see, memory speed, cache, all that stuff is part of IPC. Because, you know, if you don't tune, then you're going to get 1 bits of numbers. And then if you do tune, you're going to get a completely different set of numbers. So, yeah, I mean, technically that's all part of it. You're basically increasing IPC by tuning your system. For emulators, RPCS3 is good. And I'm definitely going to benchmark the crap out of that. In fact, Ivan asked me how I benchmark our PS3. So, yeah, one of these days, that's what we're going to do. We're just going to play some PS3 games on one of these live streams. So this way I can be like, hey, there's the video. You can go see where I benchmark. My big one is, was it Resistance, Fall of Man? And there's one, like, level that you load into, and it just crushes CPUs. It absolutely destroys them. And it's all single thread. So it's basically the perfect IPC test. And I love it because no CPU comes close to hitting 60 FPS on it. Like at points you're like, oh yeah, it's hitting 20. That's almost playable. That's good. You know, because it's RPCS3. It just destroys everything. All right, so we're going to check the settings. High. So what we're doing is, because this is only an RTX 3060, what I am doing to offset that, because I will not be buying a super high-end graphics card for CPU testing. Instead, we're going to cheat. We're just going to use DLSS. In all games that don't use DLSS, we use 720p. So this way, we don't have to waste money to run CPU benchmarks, and we'll get similar results. I'm actually going to compare the 3060 DLSS numbers. We'll be borrowing my buddy Austin's 3090 here in a few days, and I'm wondering if the 3060 might actually give us more headroom, or how close it is. So we'll actually know what the difference is. Killzone 2 doesn't even work on RPCS 3. It's completely broken. So is Killzone 3. I tried Resistance 3, and that didn't really work out too good either. Metal Gear 4. I haven't tried it. I have it. I just need to rip it over. I have one of those fancy Blu-ray drives that... I don't know, either the DLSS is really good in this particular game. I mean, it's moving real slow, or, yeah, it's definitely DLSS. For a second there, I just couldn't tell that it wasn't native, but I wasn't paying that much attention. Once I looked at it, I was like, oh yeah, then see it. But yeah, Metal Gear 4, I just haven't tried it. YouTube live streams literally allow us to experience time travel in real time. Or is the closest thing that we're ever going to get to time travel. Yes. I'm trying to think of other PS3 games that I would test. I mean, one that I was testing for a while was the Ratchet and Clank remaster, because that wasn't running, but now it runs great on almost anything. So, I mean, it's not that good of a test, but that's a native 60 FPS game. That's why I like that. But obviously it's not that demanding. It's a PS2 game with, newer assets and whatnot. All right. If you guys did not watch the last stream, the way that I bench this is I do 2 runs. First one's to heat up the GPU, get everything going, any shaders cached, so we just completely ignore that. And then the second run is the one that we use. And this and, what was it? Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Ubisoft understands that most people just buy their games for benchmarks at this point. So they do a really good job. It's 100% accurate. I compared their in-game numbers, like the numbers that they spit back to you, against what Afterburner spits out and what OCAT spits out, and they're perfect. I'm like, well, okay then. So, yeah, I just find it funny that they understand. That's what their games are mostly used for now. Last of Us. It's such a bad game. I don't even have it on PS3. It's just a terrible game, in my opinion. I know a lot of people like it, but I tried playing it. I hate games that are like basically just movies. Yeah, just not my thing. Same thing with like Metal Gear. I tried it. Just too many movies. Most Sony games are that way, to be honest. That's why I don't really care much for most of the Sony library. Their exclusives are just way too slow. I like some story in my game, but I want to be playing the game as the story unfolds. The perfect example of that is something like Gears of War. You're told the story as you're doing the game. Like your guy stops and like gets told some exposition for a second or two, and then you continue on. I much prefer that delivery of story. It does have a few cutscenes when necessary, but for the most part, you're just playing the game. Yeah, so I just prefer that. All right, let's get rid of this thing. So we have here 106 and 84. That's that, 106, 84. All right, I just jotted down on a piece of paper so I don't forget. And we'll just toss it in the Excel sheet. I should not have closed that. There it is. All right. So 84 and 106. So I'm trying to think. I've been doing so many benchmarks. DLSS, I think, is supposed to be off. Because I'm like, I remember the numbers yesterday weren't this far off. Yeah, no, we're not doing DLSS. It's for all the CPU testing. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I'm so fried because I have so many systems that I am tuning right now. And it's like I was doing the X79 before. How come nobody else caught that? Come on, guys. Could use some backup. This is why I need to spread these out a little bit further. So this way I can sleep. But yeah, so we got to redo Watch Dogs. That just did not sound correct. Kevin, yo, what's up, buddy? That max FPS looks real nice. Let's see, PS1. I'm not a fan of the exclusives on PS3 and PS4. The PS1 and PS2 exclusives are way better. I agree with that. And even compete with Nintendo's exclusives now. Yeah. The main thing that I liked about the PS3 is they remastered like all of their good PS2 exclusives, and they were all 1080p 60. So basically PS3 is the best way to play most PS2 games. So that's the main reason why I got it. That and Uncharted. Uncharted I liked. That's a game where the story kind of unfolds like what I said. You know, like you're in the game and Sully's talking to you and you're kind of still interacting with it at least. They do have their cutscenes, same as all the rest, but it wasn't as intrusive as something like Metal Gear 4. That just got annoying to me. And what was the other one? Last of Us, yeah. I just didn't enjoy that gameplay, to be honest, on that one. It was like boring. But to each their own. I know a lot of people like that game. A lot of people like those sort of interactive movies. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not my jam. Just like I had somebody today, they're like, hey, you should really start doing esports titles and this and that. And I'm like, I'm not an esports guy. It's just not my thing. And the whole goal of what I'm trying to do here is to not speak from a place of ignorance. That's why I'm testing all this stuff. Because come to find out, a lot of the information that we've been given over the years from people that we trusted was either inaccurate or misleading. So effectively, I need to see everything for myself at this point, which is kind of annoying and obviously unfeasible for most of you guys. So, you know, hopefully me and some other guys start doing that sort of stuff so this way you get the real data. And it really happened when I did the X99 platform, and that ended up beating the 3700X. I did not see that happening. That's why my 3700X was just stock. I'm like, it's going to win anyway. Whatever. And it lost. And it lost pretty good. And I was like, wait a minute. I didn't even like hard tune the 5960X. All I did was crank it up to 4.5 gigahertz. That was about it. And I just kind of wanted to see a rough idea, like where they landed type of thing. And yeah, at that point, I'm like, there's no data out there that has prepared me for that realization. And then once I had my Sandy Bridge system starting to beat the 3700X as well, I'm like, wait a minute, something is completely wrong here. Obviously, I'm going to rerun the numbers on my 3700X just to be sure, even though I've rerun them twice already, but I'm going to rerun them again. And then I'll do a tuned version on the 3700X as well to keep it fair. But at the same time, the numbers that I'm just starting to see on hardware is just insane. Like, doesn't make sense with all the data that I have crammed in my brain, which means the data that I've crammed in my brain is wrong. Pelican says 3700X sucks. Yeah, well, go watch any video in the world about that, and they'll disagree. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, why did nobody say this? Nobody said this. Nobody of significant note said this. That's kind of where to go with that. And, you know, I've had my limited testing experience. I normally can't go out and buy a bunch of stuff. I said the hell with it. Spent a few $1,000s for the channel because I'm like, I gotta know. It's just bugging me. Let's see. Ratchet and Clank games, I prefer the PS2 versions because PS3 had worse graphics and more graphical errors. I don't know. I mean, I played it. It seemed all right to me. Northern needs a nap. Go for it, buddy. I need a nap too. I'm exhausted, buddy. The other night when we did this, I was up till 3 because I kept thinking of different stuff. I was like, I need to get a new motherboard. Like, a lot of stuff was going on in my brain pan. And I have to be up by like 7 to 8 with the kid. So, yeah, going to bed at 3 really screws you up. And then every night I'm just up to like, I don't know, 2, just benchmarking. Like I said, I'm just trying to get that data in my brain pan, man. Because the whole PC landscape is different than what most of us think it is. I mean, some of you guys might already know. Let's see. X99 CPUs have ring bus and more cache. 370 is good, but X99 can still kick butt. Yeah, obviously. Obviously it can, but I didn't think it could kick that much butt because nobody talks about it. So it's like, why? Why don't we talk about this? Why don't we talk about the fact that a $100 CPU today, or less, I think they were going for like $80 last time I checked the 5960Xs, is beating a $202 to $240 CPU today. That's a pretty big difference. One is a much better value. And then I picked up the 3960X for $40. CPU and MOBO was $140 for X79. And that's beating a 3700X. So that means less than the CPU alone, you can get a whole platform. That's crazy. So this didn't really change a whole bunch. I guess we are nearing our CPU limits on this game. This is probably the most CPU demanding game that we got in here. But we got 100 and then 81. So yeah, it's not a whole lot different. But got to keep it apples to apples, boys. Apples to apples. Otherwise, I'd be giving out bad data just like everybody else. Lol, no, you need a nap? Yeah, I do, but it's okay. I am super stoked. The real trouble is I haven't had any caffeine today. I was out. So, got some Pepsis. Hopefully this will help. Pilkin says, we talk about it, but we get obliterated by AMD fanboys. Yeah, but that's because you have to show it. That's why I'm doing these live streams. So if somebody says, no, that's not true, that's not real, I got a 4-hour live stream where you can literally watch me do all of this. That's why I have the camera showing the hardware. Now, I didn't really do a big thing on this video because, well, I just did it the other day. And most of you guys were here, I would think. I don't know. And if you weren't, you can go back and watch the other one. But anyways, so literally I have to show you the hardware. I will show you the settings. I will do the overclocks live. Because to change the minds of people, you have to basically document everything. And even then, you're going to get people, well, it doesn't matter to me. I still like whatever anyway. Which is fine. But it'd just be nice if they started there. If that was the beginning of the argument. It's like, I really don't care what you have to say. Because I like whatever the hell I like anyway. That would save me a whole lot of time and effort. But that's the other reason why I wanted to do this. It's more like the documentation of everything that's going on. That's why I almost want to do the 1080 numbers on this, 1080 Ti numbers on this live too, because somebody would be like, oh, that's way too low. My 1080 Ti does this. It's like, well, yeah, I'm using stock because let's be honest, most people are going to have stock. We could probably push them, but I could push all of them. So, yeah, I figured tuning the CPU would be better, so this way we can get max performance. Anyways, I'm kind of rambling at this point. Next up, I guess we're already in this one. We can just do Assassin's Creed. I got it set up to go away completely. Bro, imagine breaking a motherboard. Well, most motherboards you have dual BIOS, and most good motherboards. Now, on the cheaper ones, but on the cheaper ones, normally you're not pushing too hard. Like, you don't really have CPU overclocking, and if you do, it's going to be like a Ryzen, which doesn't really go anywhere anyway. And then on Intel, you have no CPU overclocking anyway. It's just RAM overclocking. There's no way to brick a motherboard with that. Now, you could brick it if you're doing a BIOS update, but if you do that, that's your fault, man. They made it so easy nowadays. I remember back in the day, you needed a floppy disk. You had to type the commands in. You had to run the programs from the floppy disk. It was like a whole big DOS command setup thing. GPU flashing was even more interesting doing that from DOS. Well, effectively DOS. All right. Kevin, quick Q. With the changing market, do you and the group, I guess that means everybody in here, think that 7 GPUs, 2 1080 Ti's, and 5 5700 XTs is a good deal at $1,450? On paper, it looks good, but what are your thoughts on the market? Well, 1080 Ti, I mean, all the GPUs that we're talking about here are kind of roughly the same performance. They're going to be $250 to $300 minimum. So that's your floor. So you got, what, 7 times 250. Brain ain't working anymore. So that's almost $2,000. It's, what, $1,750 right there. So, I mean, yeah, it's a good deal, but it's not a great deal. It's like buy 6, get 1 free. That's probably the best way to look at it. The more you buy, the more you save. It's a very NVIDIA way to go. Mr. Draper, welcome, buddy. Yeah, sorry, these Ubisoft games take forever to load. That just is what it is. I'm going to be honest with you, Chris. You'll have to draw out the benchmarks in Crayola for fanboys to grasp it. Well, that's effectively what I'm doing, and they're still not going to grasp it, but I could always just be like, I did a 4-hour live stream on it, you go here. So this way, I'm not going to have to respond to these people with other than, I've already answered this, here is your answer if you don't want to deal with it. That's your fault, you know, your problem at that point. So that, and I get to hang out with you guys. So it's kind of win-win. It's win-win. But give them no outs. If you're trying to prove something beyond a reasonable doubt, you can't give them any out other than I don't wanna. And that's where they're gonna end up anyway. And like I said, if they just start there, it would save us all a whole lot of time. But there are gonna be people that'll be like, oh crap, that is interesting data. And you know, that's who it's really for. It's for the people that want to actually learn and open their minds and all that stuff. And they are out there. You guys are here. You guys weren't there at some point. All right, high settings. Okay. See, like this shit, I would not have this on, but if you want to repeat the settings at home, once again, this is to make this as dummy-proof as possible. Oh, he's using custom settings and he forgot to list one thing. Nope, we're just doing straight high preset. That's it. That's it. Every game has a high preset. We're using that, and that's the end of it. Master Micah, crypto is crashing. Prices on new GPUs are coming down. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They're just not going to get as low as I think people hope that they would. Not before the next generation comes out. Of course, once that comes out, then prices will get pushed down a little bit further. Because that's when everybody's going to really start to panic sell. But before that, I'd say your 6600s, the 3060, I don't really think is ever going to hit below 350. That will never hit its MSRP. There's just too many people out there that want that card and will pay about $400 for it. That's why they're still at like $450. The 3 GPUs we're testing right now, if you want to buy them, 6600 you can get for about $300 whenever you want. You can get the 1080 Ti now for about $350 whenever you want. And then the 3060s, like I said, they're about $450 still right now. So we basically have a range there, the $300 to $450 range. And just kind of seeing which one makes the most sense in that price bracket. Now, with the new driver, I'm most interested to see what the AMD GPU does. Before, I was most interested in the 1080 Ti because I was thinking it would be super close or possibly winning in most of the benchmarks. All right, let's just make sure it actually saved the options. I love these games where you have to reboot just to change settings. It's like, come on, guys. You know everybody's buying your game just to benchmark it. All right, we're at that point now where I need to do the shameless YouTube stuff. So this is a new channel. Obviously, we got about 20 of you guys in here, which is great. This is about where we were the other day. Really, the only way a live stream channel is going to succeed on YouTube is if you guys share this around. So if you do find some value in this content, please go on social media. You got to spam for me. I don't use social media. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to spam for myself, but I know many of you guys do. So I would greatly appreciate it because it's really the only way we're going to get the word out on this type of stuff and really get more people in here. I'll spam on, you know, Techonomics and on the main channel videos. I'll bug some of my YouTube friends. So if Connor, if you're in here, if you wouldn't mind spamming a little bit for me, that'd be great. Get the word out. That'd be awesome. If he's not in here, I'll bug him next time I talk to him. Same thing with Ivan. And Celso said that he would go ahead and post. So, you know, that's how we got the Techonomics channel to where we were. We would invite people on and stuff like that. And maybe Connor is going to be joining, but maybe I'll have other people join as well. It's just, this is kind of a weird time. I have to do it late at night because this is when my son is at bed and it's really the only free time that I have on a regular basis. And even this might change a bit when my second son is born because I'm the guy who stays up at night to take care of the kid. So we'll see how that goes. Sam, bro, this 12100 slaps. Yeah, 12100 is... This is the fastest CPU, I think, right now that I have. I know it's faster than the 3960X that I have, and we know that that's faster than my 3600X. So yeah, I haven't really pushed my 5960X to its max. We're going to do that with Connor. He's going to join one of these, and he's going to help tune. And we're going to get that thing hitting probably some pretty ridiculous numbers. And that might beat this. Maybe. But considering all I did is memory tuning, this is only running at 4.1 gigahertz. This thing, the stock cooler, this will not hit above 60 degrees. So, I mean, like, it draws so little power. This is perfect for tiny little PCs. But I already knew that because I loved the 10100. The 10100 was amazing as well. Still is amazing. I think they're like $80 now. So that thing's still really good. If you want to do like a sub, $500 PC build, 10100 is probably going to be the way to go. But for the extra, I don't know, 50, 60 bucks, this thing will kick its ass. Dr. Fresh, hey, I would love to get Sly Cooper or Jack and Daxter back. I mean, they're on PS3 as remasters. I actually have them sitting in my like eBay to buy. I will buy this in the future type cart thing, and but yeah, that's the reason why I like RPCS3, because you get the higher res, you get the widescreen, you get that. I understand it might not be 100% faithful to the originals, but I don't know. I kind of like some visual upgrades. PS2 era stuff and 4x3. If I can get around that, I'd rather. Let's see. We got Black MC. I'm still on a 4790K paired with a 1080 Ti on my gaming rig. However, my dedicated streaming rig has a 3600 paired with a 1070. Yeah, so AMD, I'm crapping all over Zen 2. Zen 2 kicks ass at certain things. And, it will just absolutely curb stomp all the rest of the CPUs I'm talking about. Which is kind of funny, because when you think of AMD, you think of it, it's good at gaming. Intel's good at other stuff. But it's actually the exact opposite. AMD is good at the productivity stuff. It's really good at video encoding. So for a streaming rig, it's perfect. That's why I'm going to keep it in this system, because it's perfect for this use case. What it's not good for is playing video games. And if you're like me, where you don't really game on your workstation, you have separate PCs for different things, you're way better off with Intel for a gaming machine, because you can just save so much money and get similar, if not better, performance. All right, let me jot this down. So we got 82 and 1% at 62. That's pretty good. It's a pretty good little experience there. All right, let's see. I think my 12700K at 4 cores slaps the 12600K, running the same tests now to see how it performs with quad and 25 megs of cache. If you have it tuned, then yeah, it should. If not, probably not going to slap it. You also have to have a 3060, by the way, because we're not running CPU tests, we're running GPU tests. That's why I had to turn off DLSS. AMD is so good at 7-zip. Yeah, there's a lot. It just goes to prove what they built Zen for. They built Zen to be a productivity monster. And it is. I was talking with Ivan about this. Literally the first gaming CPU that they built, well, that's really good at gaming, since Phenom 2, was the X3D. And I was like, yeah, I can kind of see that. What are we going to do next? Let's go ahead and let's pump these in here so this way you guys can see them. Let's do that. All right, so Shadow we haven't done. We got Assassin's Creed. So we got 62, 82. Oh, look at that. Beats on the 1%, but loses on the average by quite a bit. That's very interesting, actually. That's why I love doing this, guys. You never know what you're going to find. All right. Let's do good old Witcher 3. Witcher 3 is a good one. Witcher 3 scales with just about everything, too. It really loves memory, by the way. Frequency and latency, all of it. Witcher 3 is just one of those games. All right, let's see. What budget GPU should you get with a Ryzen 5600X? I mean, you can get whatever you want. I mean, 5600X for single-player games, it's going to play all of them. And as I keep mentioning, most people are cool with 60 FPS in most games, and or 120. If you're one of those people, it's going to be good. But if you want a budget GPU, get the 6600. As we're going to see here in a minute, that thing's just awesome. I got mine for $280. All I did was I was just on eBay, and I just saw it there. Buy now. I didn't hesitate. I just said, screw it. That's a good deal, and I bought it. So just keep your eyes out. You'll be able to pick one up here soon for that. Possibly even cheaper if you hold off. All right, so that's definitely high settings. All right, so post-processing. Got to turn these guys on. Actually, this is the only game that I turn it off. I don't know why. Anyways, I turned it off on the other one. I got to keep it here. Whatever. I just don't leave the blur on in this game. I think it's just a natural habit that I always... Because I always go to like high preset, and then I'm like, that crap needs to be turned off. So I don't even think about it. It just gets done. And then it's Blake. Sorry, Blake. This is a kind of a tiny monitor. I need to get a better secondary monitor. Usually this is just for like when I'm doing the Techonomics. I just throw the screen cap over there, and then I have everything over here. So like I don't even look at that when I'm doing the actual stream. So yeah, I just need a bigger and better second monitor. Texas a little small. I quad to see how much perform I lose to stock. Well, what I'm going to actually end up doing, the reason why I got the Sandy Bridge E is I got the 2600K, and that's what I'm going to do with that. I'm going to disable 2 cores. I want to see if I can get a higher overclock as well, see if getting rid of that. And then, because it's L3 cache on those, yeah, how much better it is giving if it's beneficial to feed fewer cores more cache than it is to keep the cores on. Because I think that's something that'd be pretty interesting, because if you have a 6 core and by disabling 2 cores you get higher FPS, that'd be pretty hilarious. Now, is that going to be the case in all games? No, but it could be. It depends how high your IPC is, honestly. Now, that's pretty low IPC, but technically it's the same architecture, so I figure it's kind of a fair match. So it'll be kind of fun, though. That's what it's all about, guys. It's just having fun. And I don't know. I'm just in tinker mode right now. I seem to be that guy where it's like I play games in the winter when I don't want to go outside, but when I want to go outside, that's when I feel like tinkering, I guess. I don't know. So definitely going to be more gaming content come winter. Also, that's when all the new games come out. You know, back in the day, there was usually 5 or 6 good games that would launch every year during the holidays. Nowadays, I'll be happy if I get one. And even if we do get one, I'll be very, very happy if it actually works without 6 months of patches. Hey, Gog, where's the OLED? That is upstairs, where it belongs, in the living room. Yeah, I don't normally game at a desk. I don't like gaming at desks. To me, it is way more fun gaming in a recliner. But for benchmarking, this is obviously the way to do it. All right, and here we go. Red Dead 2, I never wasted my time on it. Red Dead 1, just from the way... I had some guys that I worked with that had it, and they talked about it like constantly. And it just did not sound like my thing because it's so much different. Red Dead 1 was really, really good. I'm really a bit pissed that that is not on PC. And it's going to take a while before RPCS 3 or Xenia is going to be able to run that well enough to where I'd be happy with it. What Rockstar will probably end up doing is remastering it, breaking it completely, and then like a year or two later, it might actually run okay. It's probably what they'll do. Seems to be their MO. All right. So we got 127 and 103. It's up top. 127. Yeah, kind of figured we'd lose on this one. This is definitely a game. The DirectX 9 or 11 titles, the 1080 Ti is just a freaking monster. All right, Witcher, you are right over here. 3 and 127. So yeah, that's a pretty big difference there. 1080 Ti still holding up on that one. And we'll do games. I hate how they switched this. Games used to be up here, and then, you know, buy shit used to be down here where it belongs. Just do some Horizon. Why Red Dead 1 instead of 2? Red Dead 1 is more linear. It's open world, but it's a linear game. The open world part's just to get you from point A to point B, and you can wander around a little bit. Red Dead 2 is all about the open world. So, yeah, I'd much prefer a linear game. I don't like dicking around and wasting time. It's one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of Gears 5 compared to the other ones. The other ones were you just move forward and, you know, get the shit done. I like to get my games over with as fast as possible. I just don't have time for them. I like to enjoy them, but I want them to suck up as little time as possible. So favorite quality, since they don't have a high, we have ultimate quality, favorite quality, high. You know, it says high on all the stuff. Just showing you guys, that's why I went with this one. What's up, Denver? Speaking of fewer cores, more cache, did you see a non-text comparison of the 128 megabyte 5770C against the 11900K? More than once it beat the 11900K, 1/4 the power and low gigahertz. I did not see that. I think you've mentioned it before, but it doesn't surprise me. In certain it's just like the X3D. You know, it does some good stuff. Let's see. You got RPCS 3 runs Red Dead fine at 60 FPS, but with 12900K. Well, I mean, yeah. When you could run it on a $100 CPU, then we start talking. Till then, it doesn't do the thing. Then we got Blake here. Since I have a FX 8350 platform on the side, would it be great to do some old offline Windows XP retro gaming builds with it? Yeah, I mean, it'd be pretty good for that. I'd recommend maybe like a 2500K, but you already have the system. My GPU I plan to use is a Titan Kepler. That would work just fine. And because that has XP drivers. Yeah, that'd be real good. It's a little OP for XP if you're only going to do XP. So you should probably dual boot it. So this way you can run some newer games on it if you want or need to. Do you consider RDNA 2 a reversal from optimized compute to gaming? Turing and Ampere seems to be the opposite. Exactly. That's exactly what happened. AMD went to a gaming focused architecture and NVIDIA went to the compute focused architecture. And unfortunately for AMD, that means that NVIDIA is going to have the fine wine. But fortunately for AMD, they're so bad at making drivers, they can just come out a few years later and give you 20% more performance in like 2 or 3 year old games. I find that to be a massive negative because you should have always had that performance. But I guess better late than never. So AMD's software team leaves a lot on the table. So that there's that. 5775X has more cache than the X3D. That's crazy. I think you mean the 5770C, 75C. But yeah, it was mostly because they were trying to pump the iGPU. That's what Intel was doing with that. They were trying to make a real competitive APU. That didn't work out. But it made the CPU portion of it far more interesting. The other issue is it's L4 cache, not L3, so it has even higher latencies. Is it true that games are not meant to be played at ultra settings or whatever the top setting is? No, I mean, they're there. It's just the visual quality difference is so minor. A lot of... I can't say it for 100% certainty, but Ultra is mostly for the benchmark community because the more broken and janked out your game is, the more likely it's going to be used as a benchmark, because if you can run the most broken and janked out thing ever, you can run not broken and janked out things. So, yeah, Ultra is mostly for benchmarking. For anybody who wants to get maximum visuals per performance, you're looking at high, a mix of high and medium. Sometimes even low, honestly. Like shadows in some games look the same on low as they do. Now, granted, you'll have Digital Foundry going, this one pixel is slightly different. For any normal human being, it's the same. Yeah, whatever. We gotta run you again, and there we go. But yeah, I mean, you got to tweak it yourself. Like me personally, I found Crysis Remastered. I run that bitch on almost all low. Now textures you want as high as your VRAM will allow. But the main reason why is because you can just make that thing fly. It runs so good even on basic hardware. Like a RX 580 can run that thing at like 120 FPS. Running Crysis at 120 FPS is insane to begin with, and the Crysis Remastered, even on low, looks better than the original Crysis on max. So I'm like, this is already a better experience, and you get the crazy good and high and stable frame rates. So for me, I just crank it down. Now, granted, I have more powerful graphics cards now, so I could crank it back up, probably keep the performance, but there's a huge difference between low and medium. Like, it's like 60 FPS at medium and like 120 at low. I'm like, yeah, I'll take the 120. And visually, it's not that much different to me. You guys are talking about the Kepler Titan, I guess. Yeah, no, that's way OP for XP and XP era games. The most demanding game, you need to find a cracked version of like Crysis 2. I think somebody might have mentioned that. I saw that in there. It's probably that Metro 2033. Maybe even Last Light would run. I think it would. I think that's 32-bit as well, and DirectX 9 as an option. But yeah, that's basically like the most demanding games that you'll have for an XP era system. When benchmarking, isn't it better to use games with built-in benchmark rather than doing it yourself? I disagree, because you can find better areas. I just don't really feel like playing Horizon Zero Dawn right now. I want to actually sit down and enjoy this game, so I didn't want to go through the story and like stop somewhere, because then I never finish them. If I'm like halfway through a game to find like a benchmark spot, I like never finish them. So that's why I'm using the canned benchmark on this one. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, you're better off running the sequence that you'll see me run, because it's way more demanding than the built-in benchmark. Now, a lot of people be like, well, you get the exact same run when you use the built-in benchmark. That is also not true, because a lot of these NPCs are walking around, so it's not the same thing every time. And if you run benchmarks a lot, you're pretty much doing the exact same thing. So any slight deviation there is, it's not going to make any real difference. So yeah, I personally prefer actual in-game benchmarks, but it's just not feasible. If you're going to do especially this large of a selection of games, it's just not worth it. And then there's also just some games I'm just not going to play. Like, I have no interest in Watch Dogs Legion, like, at all. And let's see. Horizon, like I said, I don't want to ruin my own experience on this. So, I mean, there's just some reasons why I don't do it. But, like, Doom doesn't have a built-in benchmark, so you have to do it that way. You have to go into the game and play it. All right, so what am I doing? 114.69, 144.69. I'm really curious to see how this compares. Yeah, whatever, go away. Because this is like a newer title, but it seems to like DirectX 11 GPUs better. From what I've seen from other people. It's the other reason why I'm testing. I want to see these things for myself. Oh, no, look at this. Look at this, guys. No, look at that. It ekes out the win. Ekes out that margin of error win there. Definitely margin of error. So, virtual tie. Having a very new GPU for XP is nice because you can undervolt the snot out of it. Yeah, that's very true. You could take like a 960 or 970. Usually runs at like 1200, 1400 stock. Crank that thing down to like 400, 500 megahertz and draw like 20 watts. I can see that being of benefit. Honestly, I think probably the 750 Ti is probably the best Windows XP GPU. Just because you can get a low profile one. It already doesn't draw much power. You could tune it further if you need to. All right. Is there any other games in there? We're doing Cyber Bitch. See, once again, this is like the jankiest game ever. Why do you think everybody benchmarks this and uses this? Because it's such a piece of crap. That's why part of me thinks that these game developers actually do this on purpose. I don't know. I can't prove that, but it just feels like that might be a thing. I think the 1% was 56. No, that's why I write it down. Because while I'm chatting, I'll probably forget. But yeah, no, I look at it, I say it out loud, and then I write it down. Oh, like PCSX too. Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, I'm really interested. I'm going to give them some time to get their Vulkan implementation better, because that will hopefully fix a lot of the jank in PCSX 2. That thing is very janky. All right. No DLSS. All right, good. And we got 1080p, all of that. Okie dokie. Now, as I was just saying, this is like the jankiest game ever. However, this right here, I only have to run this one once. This is the most stable benchmark I've ever seen. Like, I've done it so many times, and for like a month, I was, you do your 3-run average just to see, and when every single run is virtually the same, it's like there's not even a point to that now, is there? Everything is already cashed in, so it's good for benchmarking. So once again, kind of like the Ubisoft games, it's like, well, it has a function. For instance, my earlier Zen CPUs would perform pretty good at lower end FPS, but average FPS compared to Intel systems. Okay. with OpenGL and Vulkan. Think you're talking about PCSX 2. Yeah, OpenGL is way better, but it does not run on AMD cards. It does not run well at all. So then you're stuck with DirectX 11, which does not work very good. And then you're just getting a suboptimal experience. So Vulkan basically fixes PCSX 2 in theory. So I'm just going to give them a little time to get that squared away. All right, let's shoot these guys. All right. Got to shoot at the empty van because that's how we roll. I remember when this trash game first came out. The input lag was so bad that I couldn't even shoot anybody. That's how I knew like this game was just complete crap. I'm like, I can't even hit anybody because the input lag was just that bad. I don't know if any of you guys remember that, or hopefully you were smart enough you did not buy this game anywhere near launch and did not experience any of that. All right, 7259. Let's get this thing over here. 7259. All right. All right, a little bit of a lead there for the 3060. All right, we got Far Cry, Tomb Raider, StarCraft, and Doom. All right, most of that's on Steam. Got a free copy, never installed it. Yeah, unfortunately, I had to buy mine. I was trying so hard because I knew I wasn't going to like the game. Everybody was getting, before it came out, everybody's like, oh, what do you mean? This is going to be the best game ever. I'm like, no, it's not. It's just not going to be very good. And I just could tell by the trailers. I'm like, this isn't the right game for me. And anyways, I was working with a company and they were supposed to get me CD keys. I was paying them every month to basically do stuff. And that was one of the few things that they were actually able to manage, but they couldn't get me that one. So I had to spend the money on a game that I had no interest in playing. I'm not a big fan of doing that. When games are super demanding like Cyberpunk, you mean super janked up. That game should run at easily 3 or 4 times the FPS if they actually knew what they were doing and used a proper engine. But anyways, I start turning off all shadows to see what I can do. Mostly helps before that FSR patch. Yeah, yeah, shadows is definitely one of the first things that can go. Like I said, even at low, most of the time they look fine enough. Who sits there and looks at shadows in a game? It's when, you know, like you're not looking and then you notice them. That's when you know that they're too low. All right. Make sure everything is set correctly. Where's DLSS? Off. Okay. I want to make sure that's off. Good. Bought Cyberpunk at a discount. Yeah, that's the way to do it. Yeah, if you hear a game is broken, I always wait. Like I can afford games at launch anyway. Well, if you can't afford games at launch, definitely don't. What I find hilarious is most games are usually like 33% off within 2 or 3 months. I'm like, you can't wait 2 or 3 months. I don't know. I have such a huge library of games that I really don't need new ones. Although I do like new experiences. So if somebody comes out with something that's good, I have no problem buying it. But, you know, there's so many other things that I could do that I already spent money on. So might as well take advantage of that. Square Enix sold off this franchise for crypto. Yeah, I heard that. I was like, this is the stupidest thing ever. But Square Enix, let's be honest. I'm actually glad that they got rid of Tomb Raider and Deus Ex because they weren't the best stewards of these franchises. At least those two they did something with, but yeah, that's just not a good company, man. When was the last time they had a good Final Fantasy? I mean, Final Fantasy X? You know, you guys might like some of the newer stuff or the online stuff. I know some people do, but I don't know many people that liked 15. And for the most part, I think most people would agree, especially if you like the old, you know, Final Fantasy 2, which is 4. You know, it's 2 here in the US, 3 here in the US, which is 6, 7. And then 8 was kind of shit. 9 was good. 10 was good. And then that was about it. Then you had, you know, your Chrono Crosses and this and that. But look what they're doing with those. They even screwed up the Chrono Cross remaster. It's like, how do you screw this up? You put a little bit of work in there. You don't just use Topaz Labs AI upscale. You use that plus you hand paint some new assets and whatever. Yeah, so Square Enix is just going to go out of business is what's going to happen. And Microsoft will buy Final Fantasy just to piss on Sony's cornflakes, probably. That'd be my guess. And motion blur is another setting I turn off in almost all games. Yeah, I turn it off in all games. I'm just not doing it now because I went over it. It's just easier for people to replicate if they want to. Just use high settings. Just the high preset. But yes, in almost any game, this is one of the most CPU demanding sequences. Like when I tested the 12900K with DDR5, this was where it just started flying because it just gave it that extra headroom. But yeah, this is definitely a game that likes more cores. This is one of the few games the 3700X is actually pretty competitive on. So Final Fantasy X is your favorite one ever? Yeah, it's one of the best ones, hands down. Yeah, I'd say it's the last good one in my opinion. All right, 11390. Time is it? All right, so we're about an hour in. We still got. All right, I think we're actually gonna scrap Doom. I've been debating on it because of that dip on the 1% low, because they're all gonna have the same 1% low. Every GPU hits the same thing, so I think we might just scrap that for time, and we might be able to blast through the 6600. I definitely want to do that because that's the one I'm personally most interested in. Far Cry is not. This is another Ubisoft game. You just let it benchmark itself. And then StarCraft. Yeah, I think that'd be good. I miss the old 8-bit RPGs. I think you mean the 16-bit ones, because the 8-bit ones weren't very good. But the 16-bit era is when Squaresoft was the king. Failed to... Who cares? Skip. Oh, they ruined Final Fantasy VII Remake. Yeah, the story is absolute butt. I was so angry because I spent $70 on the deluxe version. Oh, no. Oh, no. Yeah. That game was awful. I got it for $40 at launch. Like, Walmart just had it physically for PlayStation. Like, super cheap. I'm like, yeah, for $40, I'll check this out. Like, I wanted to play it because I didn't want anybody... Well... Honestly, I was like, I've already played Final Fantasy VII a bajillion times. Why the hell would I need to watch a review? It's got prettier graphics, this and that. Yeah, that was a bad idea. But nobody mentioned that they said, nah, we're going to just kind of redo the whole thing. But it was called a remake, so I guess that was kind of on me. Remaster equals good, remake equals bad. Not every time, but it's not going to be the same game. So if you're hoping for the same game with better graphics, you don't want remakes. You just want remasters. I like buying deluxe versions at massive discounts. Yeah, if the game completely fails, you can buy them super cheap. Tifa and Aerith look great, but the voice acting's so bad and story so mediocre. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that one really got me. Like anytime Cloud mentioned like just his whole demeanor, I was just like, "Come on, guy. I know you're supposed to be like the angsty teen, but because it's a Japanese game and their angsty teen thing is just so much different than ours. I'm just like, this dude's a total loser. I mean, the whole time, I'm like, I don't even like you. I want you to die. Barrett was pretty good, but he was over the top. It's just a game that's better without voice acting. Just because then you can read the text and you can kind of embellish the words that make sense to you, and it's just a better experience. Yeah, they should have just not had any speech in the game. That's number one. The fact that they changed the story was stupid. The fact that they changed the gameplay mechanics was stupid. Basically, everything that they did with that is wrong. Make the exact same game in the exact same way with better graphics. That is all. That is the only function anybody cares out of you. The only game which delivers a remake is Spyro Enter the Dragon. Well, I was gonna say Crash, but those to me are more remasters because they didn't remake the game. It's the exact same game. It's kind of like the Halo updates and whatever. It's the exact same game with just a new coat of paint on top. There's actually quite a few of them that are good. The Turok remaster is real good. They're going through and doing a lot of Shadow Man. A lot of old 90s PC games that are just really, really difficult to get running on modern hardware. They're remaking those, or remastering those. And that's the main function of a remaster to me, is just to get it to run on more modern hardware without having to, like, hack the shit out of it. All right, so 144, 116. All right, we'll do StarCraft, then we'll jump on over to the RX 6600, see how that compares. Okay. Power Slave Remaster, yeah. That one's actually really good because they took elements from the Saturn version, the PlayStation version, and the PC version. They combined all of them. So, like, that's really cool. So, like, that I'm pretty okay with, too. Because it's all the original stuff. Just, you get more of it. So, I like that. That was all right. They turned Cloud into a wuss in the old game. Used to get in Barrett's face and argue with him. Yeah, now he just goes, humph. You know, like something like a 13-year-old kid would do. And I know that they're supposed to be young, but I think they're 17, 18 years old. They're too old to be acting that way. Now, I know in Japanese culture, that's kind of how they portray their people. I've never been to Japan, so I can't say for sure, but they portray their society as being very angsty and because they think it's edgy. I don't know. Japanese people are a bit weird. At least the media that comes out of their country is a bit weird. Another good remaster would be the PS3 and 360 version of Daytona USA. Well, that is the remaster. They just need to bring it over. That's one of the main reasons why I could never get rid... Like, I will always have an Xbox until they get the emulator being halfway decent. A lot of those live arcade games, those are like the best versions. Guardian Heroes, yeah, that's one of the best versions of that. And I'm hoping they're going to bring Gears of War 2 and 3 to PC. Even Gears 1 is really difficult to get up and running. Apparently, the remastered Gears 1 only works on 1909 version of Windows 10. So you have to have like a 3 or 4 year old version of Windows 10 to even run it. I was like, well, that's pretty stupid, isn't it? I have the old school like 2007 version, and you can get it working, but you gotta work at it. Took me a few days to get that up and running. Still can't get it working in Linux, which is annoying because I was really hoping to get away from all that jank with Linux. But it is so janky that I couldn't even get it working over there. How many remakes are done well, especially with an IP that is big? I mean, I'd say most of them are done pretty well. It's actually just the bad ones that stand out in your mind. Now, we might dump this, too. I'm like, why am I running StarCraft 2? I just had it on there because of all the CPU testing. I highly doubt there's going to be any difference. Now, if there is a difference, we'll run this also on the Radeon, but... Well, I guess it's the only DirectX 9 game, so I guess I'll keep it for that. But yeah, this should be completely CPU bound. Yeah, we're at 62% GPU utilization. Yeah. Doing Tasty Remake is fine. It looks amazing. But some of the charm is lost. Remake of Abe's Odyssey. Are you guys like going through like every remake or remaster that is good and bad? Because that's going to be a lot. Because that's all they're doing now. Because these guys don't know how to make good video games anymore. So like, oh, let's just remake the games when we were good at making games. All right, 2, 3. 8 and 2, 1, 4. All right. Do we have a difference? We definitely got a difference. That's really interesting. I did not think that would be a thing. But we got ourselves a difference, boys. StarCraft 2, not completely GPU bound. End game. Go away. I also prefer games that let you go straight to Windows. Like, why do I need to be in here? Can't we just leave now? All right, so let's enter in all the rest of the data that we have. All right, so shadows, we got 90 and 113. So virtual tie. Doom. We're just going to get rid of you, buddy. I'm sorry. You're just not the best benchmark. I will find a better way of doing that. Okay. So, Far Cry, we got 1.6 and 144. All right, so once again, the DirectX 11 game, 1080 Ti comes out ahead, and then StarCraft. StarCraft is definitely interesting because we had 214. That's noticeable. And 308. That's also noticeable. So that is that's definitely interesting, boys. Okay. And all right, so we are going to switch on over our stuff. So let's shut this bad boy down. We got Blake saying as much as he hates modern day Epic Games, as long as they keep Unreal Tournament around, Epic Games, you can keep running that one. Yeah, Unreal Tournament's all right. Let's see here, because we got that shut down. Switch on over, and time to switch GPUs. Also going to unplug the internet because I don't want Windows installing some crap ass driver. So if you guys missed the last one, we are using the PowerColor Fighter RX 6600. I personally like it because it has no backplate. It is very minimalistic, very, very small, not even the length of the PCB, much like the 3060 XC. I prefer the smallest possible graphics cards that we can get our hands on in terms of form factor. Because you never know when you need to throw it into a tiny, tiny little case. There it is. Okay, let's get this fired up. And because it's AMD, I have to remember I have to turn HDCP off because for some reason that's a thing. First person mod for Witcher 3, I did not. Sounds like that'd be pretty good. I mean, basically it becomes Skyrim at that point, doesn't it? All right, let's switch this. All right. I'll switch this and this. Alrighty, boys. So we got our preview software. We will reboot and we will DDU the NVIDIA driver off of here. I like the simplicity of the fighter cards too. Looks like a graphics card and no extra BS. Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, that's why it's the cheapest model. You know, they strip out as much as they possibly could. All right, there we go. Good old safe mode. But yeah, in terms of form factor, they are the smallest. Like the 6700 XT, the only one that I would buy is the fighter because all the rest of them are too big. The mech wasn't too bad either, so I'd probably do the mech 2 or that one. But there's just no reason to have a triple fan system on a GPU like that. Not unless you're going to be pushing it to the absolute maximum. All right, what am I doing? DDU. Okay, kill NVIDIA driver. Thank you. No backplate, no bueno in 2022. Backplates are shit, man. I hate backplates. There's no reason to ever have a backplate. They just get in the way and they don't do anything. I don't like having large graphics cards. Like I'll probably never own a triple fan graphics card because there's just no point. 250 watts-ish. 300 is my absolute limit. You can get away with a 300 watt dual fan, most likely. The 1080 Ti that I have, that's dual fan. That thing never hits 70C, so there's really just no reason for it, in my opinion. Damn, is everything in life just about money? What about love and passion? I mean, you know, love and passion's good, but money is what tempers your love and passion. That's why I haven't gone out and spent thousands of dollars on hardware before. But I was losing the love and the passion, so I said, you know what? We're going to do it, and we're going to test some stuff, and we're going to see if we can come up with some data that is very, very interesting. Main reason why I wanted to start with the GPUs is I was mostly curious. That's why we're starting here, but the CPU stuff is probably going to be way more interesting. And then the Linux stuff. A lot of you guys, I know you want to try Linux. I know a lot of you guys already use it, but a lot of people, they're just afraid. They're like, oh, I'm just afraid of change and this and that. I'm like, well, it's free. Just try it out. So I think that's going to be a big deal, especially when people go, oh, I can run almost all my games. That's going to be a cool thing. Yeah, so I'm pretty passionate about showing people cool stuff that they didn't know was either easy or cheap or whatever. Unreal Tournament 3 was pretty bad. Like I was a top tier Unreal player, and 3 just screwed up everything. Denver, I just got asked to participate in the Steam hardware survey again. Still only on the system that still has the Geforce GPU and the latest machine for gaming. That's pretty interesting. I haven't been asked for that in forever. All right. Sorry, I was just catching up on you guys. All right. There's no need for that. We don't have any AMD driver on here. I plan to get an RTX 2060 KO just for the new NVENC, just because I have another live streaming PC or arcade capturing in that garage, and I could use my 1070 for it since I have an X470 free. Well, I mean, to be honest, for like live streaming, you could just use CPU encode and you're still way better off than NVENC. So it really just comes down to what CPU you got in there. If you can do that, because you still get the better and smaller file size if you're going to save it. All right, let's go ahead and restart. And we got Marcus saying, yeah, I also have to promote Linux. I have to educate people, but my dudes that start with Linux stay there. Yeah, Linux is just, it's getting close. It's not there yet. It's not quite there yet. It's there for people like me that are cool with tinkering because, you know, making shit work is fun for me. But a lot of people don't want that. They just want to play their game. But it's close. I'd say probably 90% is basically just install your game like you're used to doing and play. So for most people, that's going to be good enough. But once it gets to like 95, 99% of the way there, that's when people will start jumping. And it'll probably happen when Valve really starts pushing Steam consoles or something. They're going to do something. You know they're not done with the Steam Deck. It's under display. Overrides. EULA. Turn off. Go away. Don't know why you make us do this, AMD. This is just stupid. Denver saying that he's been asked several times over the past year so far. Only 2 GeForce machines, 1060 laptop and desktop. These are my least used machines for games and other things. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it has anything to do with that. Like, I get asked for Steam hardware surveys usually on like a test build when I install Steam, if I ever see one. And I always let that go. It's like, yeah, man, I'm rocking a Phenom 2 paired with a HD 5870. It's still a thing, boys. Throw that on that hardware survey. All right, so we got all that good to go. All right, let's get this bad boy going. We'll start with the Ubisoft stuff. and we'll take it from there. I'm really kind of interested because, like I said, oh yeah, I got to plug this internet back in. I think they said 20% or 15% they're trying to say on Watch Dogs Legion. So it was already winning the last stream when we ran the tests. So if it's an extra 15% on top, this might actually be the most interesting benchmark of the night. I know Assassin's Creed will also run well, but that's because it's an AMD sponsored title. But yeah, let's see if AMD can beat the 1080 Ti with their $300 graphics card, because a lot of people don't think of it like that. If AMD marketed it like that, hey, we're selling you a 1080 Ti card and it's $300, which of course they're not from AMD anyway, but you can get them there. It would have probably been the best selling card of the generation. Second streaming PC was the thing. Only had a crummy Intel 4-core. Yeah. Well, that's when you want the NVENC, is when you're running like this. Like, you could use QuickSync, but QuickSync is terrible. So, like, I would not want to use the 12100 for CPU encoding. I mean, it would work, but, you know, not if you're running games on it as well. That is the drawback to the low core counts. Oh, I gotta turn off the audio again. YouTube will go ahead and punish you. I guess this channel's demonetized anyway because it doesn't have enough stuff. But yeah, I was running Batman Arkham Knight and just had like the background audio, and they're like, "No, you can't use that. That's copy protected." It's like, okay. So I'm just like, we will just not use game audio ever again on YouTube. I have talks about doing a dedicated multimedia PC from my choice of my majority of most of my older motherboards. You know the English there is very bad in GPUs. So you got a bunch of stuff laying around. You want to make something. Got it from an old neighbor just for free to avoid e-waste. Yeah, I mean, go for it. Oh, there's a lot of fun that can be had. And you can actually make decent PCs. Like, if you know somebody that's like, yeah, I kind of want to get into PC gaming, or maybe they're just not big into gaming at all anyway, you just give them one and be like, hey, yeah, this isn't running anything modern, but, you know, you can go play some old stuff and, you know, get them onto some of your old favorites. And once they get up to speed, then you'll probably have some newer parts or something for them. All right, just do the double check. None of the temporal crap is on. Okay. Let's go. Old PC with Linux is better than a Raspberry Pi. Absolutely. I would say anything Core 2 or newer is going to beat the pants off a Raspberry Pi. And you can get those CPUs for free. And as long as you're not doing any overclocking, you could probably get a motherboard for free. You can't use game audio. BS. I was planning on doing a gaming YouTube channel. Yeah, I would avoid it. I mean, if you're doing the streaming, just like with Techonomics, all the money comes from the donations. So that you'd still get, I think. But yeah, no. I think it was the last Linux video where I was comparing stuff. I had the Batman benchmark going on in the background. And I was up real late finishing it, and I was like, okay, cool, I got it done, whatever. I had to spend another hour because I had to cut all that out and throw some different background music on. I was really pissed off because I was up till like 4 in the morning getting that video up. All because YouTube was like, no, Batman's thing is copy protected. Meanwhile, you know, I am talking over it as it's playing. But yeah, if it hears any notes that somebody says I own, yeah, it's just not worth it. If you don't use their pre-approved background music, don't use anything. Denver, I got a copyright strike for posting a video about How Apple prevents screen capture HDCP, and no, the desktop background was my own artwork, and there was no audio disabled, no OBS. Yeah, sometimes that happens too, but those ones you'll win when it's complete bullshit. But when they're like, yeah, this little clip of audio is copy protected, it is just not worth the fight. It really is not. Now, granted, technically you are legally allowed to use it if you're talking over it or about it or whatever. But then you're basically relying on YouTube to eventually give you your money. Or you can just not do it and get your money right away. So, yeah, it is just not worth using game audio. Alrighty, guys. Sounds like the kid maybe getting a little fussy. If that happens, I will have to take a break. I don't have a taking a break screensaver. I really should do that, especially when my new son is born, because I'll be running upstairs changing diapers or whatever. But yeah, so if I have to go, I'll let you know. And if anybody jumps in and they're like, why the hell am I looking at a blank desktop or whatever, please let them know. ARM is still not there where x86 CPUs currently are. Yeah, they're just not as powerful. You know, they'll win. The Apple one will win in certain benchmarks. But just the generic ARM CPUs are not there, no. YouTube is so tyrannical. This is why when you have no... this is what happens when you have no competitors. Yeah. Same thing in anything. Now, they do have competitors. The problem is it's just not real. You know, like, I have an Odyssey account. I don't even bother mentioning it. It's just if, for whatever reason, YouTube decides to ban me one day, I can just have, like, some of my YouTube buddies tell you. It's like, well, you can still watch his videos on Odyssey. It's just a plan B. And that's what I think it is for most people. Waiting for a competitor to rise up and drop these fools. Problem is, if somebody beats YouTube, they're going to have to be a bigger company. So if YouTube's $1 trillion company, you're going to need like a $2 or $3 trillion company, which means they're just going to be even worse. So there is no good option, unfortunately. All right, so what do we got here? Watch Dogs Legion. We got 80 and 102. 102 and 80. And yeah, that's a big fucking deal. So we're going to go straight to our thing. So this way I can show you the three-way comparison. Oh, maybe it's not. I must have been looking at different numbers. I just have them all kind of scribbled down on the sheet. So, all right. So, yeah, a little bit better than the 1% lows are great. That's probably what I was most focusing on. No, I said 80, not 90. Sorry, the pen that I have kind of sucks. That's why when you guys questioned me before, I was like, maybe you might be right, but that one was written clearly. So, yeah. So, 1% lows, so a little bit behind this, a little faster than this guy. It's kind of a nice little thing there. But this won the other day, which means AMD might be lying about their preview driver. Which is another reason why we like to test. 1% is more important to me than averages. Yes. 1% is all that matters. Realistically, you shouldn't even waste your time looking at averages. I do it just because if I didn't have averages, people would be like, oh, why don't you have averages? But yeah, the 1% low data is really the only metric that matters, because 0.1% low doesn't matter, because if you get a checkpoint save or literally anything happens, it completely destroys that. So it's completely unreliable and not even repeatable that often. So yeah, the 1% low, that doesn't happen to, and it's You know, if you have 45 on the 1% low, you know you're 60 FPS gaming just fine. If you're like 90, you know you're 120 FPS gaming just fine. So, yeah. Oh, have a good night, Denver. He said before, technically, you have to be critiquing, reporting, and constantly educating with the artwork to be able to argue its fair use in defense of court. Music is less needed for benchmarks. Yeah, I mean, there's just no point. There's just no point. At least YouTube gives you free music to use that they can't, you know, if you use it, they can't do anything to you. So might as well. Stephen Peterson said that determines smoothness of rendering. Yeah. Yeah. Effectively, if you want the best experience, you look at your 1% low and you cap your frame rate lower than that. And then you're going to have basically a flawless experience. How long do you think it'll take to get 8 terabyte NVMe SSDs to affordable prices? A long time, because 4 terabytes are still stupid. Yeah, I'm glad you said NVMe's, because you can get the SATA ones. They're 300-ish, which isn't too bad for the 4 terabytes. But yeah, 8s, it's going to be a long, long time. If you need mass storage, just buy a hard drive. Just buy a hard drive and swap to your SSD as needed. So, like, I have an 8 terabyte 7200 RPM in my main machine. That's where I just dump these massive games. Like Valhalla here, this is like 120 gigabytes. This is a game I don't even play, guys. So I don't want to download this every time I'm going to use it. So I just throw it on there and then bring it out, update it when needed for benchmarks. All right, double check the options, make sure graphics. See, look at this shit. Why are you changing my thing? And then I'm going to have to reset the game. Really, really hate when games do things on their own. It's like, don't change anything ever unless I tell you. All right, we still got 18 in here. I mean, this is getting pretty late, so I want to thank you all for sticking around. Well, at least here in the United States, it's pretty late. Might be really early for some of you guys somewhere. But, yeah, so for our second stream, we're doing pretty good. Numbers are definitely a little bit higher. So I want to thank any of you guys that did go out and post on social media, do the whole share thing. That is super helpful. And, yeah, like I said, we'll just keep doing this. This is mostly so you guys can see how I do things. You can see the stuff happening live. And, yeah, I got somebody to talk to while I'm doing some work. Let's double check the settings because we know how this game likes to do whatever the hell it wants. All right, that is high. And let's go. On my gaming rig, mass storage, hard drive is 4 terabyte, but even then it's not enough now. I'm debate between 8 terabyte, 16 terabyte for 7200 RPM drive. I mean, if it's just mass storage, believe it or not, I found I don't really like the 7200s on the 8 terabytes. They fail a lot easier. Like this, I think, is the second one. At least they, you know, RMA them without much issue. They have decent warranties. But the 5400s just seem to last better. So I'd actually recommend going that route. And platter density is so good. You'll still get the like 180 to 200 megabytes per second transfer speeds, sequential transfer speeds. So it's definitely better than gigabit Ethernet, even if you have that, which I do not want to pay the premium where I live. So I only have 100 megabit, and downloading a 120 gig game on 100 megabit, just not fun. So All right, looks like everybody's getting tired. I could definitely go for an energy drink myself. I'm not gonna lie, guys. But we've got one down. This one's almost done. We're skipping Doom. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more. So that's not too bad. Should be done by probably 1 where I live. I live Central Time, so. PS1 Freak, I accidentally got a 5400 RPM 4TB drive. And I'm glad that I did. It's a Seagate and it worked for 4 years. Yeah, 5400s, yeah, they're slower, obviously. Seek time's the big thing. But honestly, seek time, if that's a big deal for you, you should have that on an SSD, whatever it happens to be. So, yeah, for the longevity, I would strongly recommend it. Now, you also want to find the one with the largest amount of cache. Just like everything else, big cache also helps, especially with those seek times. So, I didn't know because most people recommend 7200 RPM drive for spinning, but I didn't know 5400 would last longer. Might consider that as a spare. Yeah, it's just, it wears out faster on 7200. There's only so many spins in a thing. Now, granted, that doesn't mean the 7200 doesn't last 10 years and the 5400 dies in 3 or 4. That can happen too. But in my experience, 72s die more often earlier. And they're quiet. They're quieter. That's true. And yeah, I mean, basically, it's all the same sort of thing. Quieter, produce less heat, use less energy, all that stuff. All right, so we're wrapping up here, and we'll see how we're doing head to head to head. All right, so we got 88 and 63. 63 sounds very familiar. And all right, there's another interesting one. I run 2 twin 4TB hybrid drives and RAID 0 for my mass storage, mostly just games that can easily be re-downloaded. And the RAID array makes the speeds less. Yeah, well, I mean, that was the big thing way back when hard drives was the only thing. You run them in RAID. Nowadays, I run all of my hard drives as redundant. Like, everything's backed up. I got like quad backups of everything because they're so big now. You can just store everything. Yeah, always having spares is a good thing. Yeah, that's where we're going there. Okay, let's get our little chart out here. So we got that was 63, 60. Come on, 63, 88. Kind of janked up so I don't bash into the mic there. So on average, loses to the 1080 Ti, 1% low, slightly higher. Close to the 10% mark. So I would say that's beyond margin of error. And then, yeah, so that's kind of an interesting game right there. And it's a little bit faster than the 3060, which, once again, that was to be expected considering it's an AMD sponsored title. All right, let's do the GOGs. All right, let's start with Witcher. I want to see this like 18% increase to DirectX 11. Let's see if this is a real thing. Yeah, AC5 like Sam. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of anything that doesn't work across the board. So Sam is not something that I'll be utilizing. All right, settings look correct. All right. Yeah, AC5, I think it's like the one game that like really freaking loves smart access memory. Like, it's a big deal on that one. I have all 3 Witcher games on GOG. Yeah, I mean, personally, if it's on GOG, that's where I buy it. Even if I own it on other platforms, because once again, I have those all backed up. So GOG could go out of business, internet could go down, World War III could happen. As long as I have electrical power, I have all my games, at least all the GOG ones. So, and anybody who thinks if things were to get real rough, you know, a hurricane comes through or whatever, the person who has some form of entertainment can't make some sweet profits. That's kind of my whole thought. It's like, let's get some solar, and then I could charge people money to play video games if the world goes to hell. And you never know. Where I live, tornadoes are a thing, so you could just hit, you know, power plant and then be out for a few weeks. So, if you can't play offline, you don't own it. That's the general rule. Steam, at the very least, you can play for 2 weeks offline. All right, so we just run around Novigrad. Now, granted, this is much more of a CPU benchmarky area, but I didn't feel like finding one that's a better GPU benchmark area. I think it kind of works. CPU does not seem to be taxed at all, though. We're on 98% GPU here. This little 12100 is insane. Let's turn around. And away we go. Who remembers when you didn't have to be online for Ubisoft games? That's a long time ago. Ubisoft, I think, was the first one. And it was Assassin's Creed 2 is when they started that crap. Because I remember that. I was like, nope, I'll just buy you on the Xbox 360. Actually, the AC games, for the most part, I would prefer just playing on console. Especially the older ones. They just run better. They're just so janky on PC. All right. 131, 110. And, well, this is going to make for a very interesting video on the main channel. You guys are obviously going to be like, oh yeah, I already know all this stuff. I actually saw the chart, you know, because I'll make the graphs down here. I actually saw the Excel sheet. All right, so we got 110, 131. So 1080 Ti still killing it, but beats out the 3060 in this one. So yeah, there's probably something to that driver bumping up DirectX 11. Now this is a game that AMD's smart enough to know a lot of people are going to try. So is this actually. I don't have any other DirectX 11s on here. But we have StarCraft. We'll try that out. That's DirectX 9. See if they did anything with that. Okay, so we got Horizon, and then we'll do Cyberpunk. All right, so I'm actually going to take a 5-minute break here once I get the first benchmark running, because this one takes a little while. So I'll be right back. Pretty sure it's under settings and what am I doing? Graphics. There it is. Hi. Yay, that's what we want. Okay, run benchmark. So I'll be back in just a couple minutes, guys. And then we'll rerun this to get the numbers. Oh man, it's not even done yet? Or is it looping? Uh, 1080 Ti equals 8800 GTX 2.0. Absolutely it is, man. I mean, it's still holding up pretty good. I'm actually more surprised that these $300 graphics cards are at this level, because this is the real comparison in my eyes for these. Okay, this is a long benchmark. I'm gonna have to find like an in-game version for this moving forward. This is way too long. Way too long. All right, anyways, let's run it one more time now that whatever shaders need to be cached are cached. I know a lot of people kind of complain about Linux for that, but it's a real issue on Windows too. Nathan? Not gonna lie, that improved Witcher 3 performance could very well be the reason why I buy AMD next time around. Hey man, I mean, it was pretty good. That's why I'm running all these tests, man. You know, I wanna see where everything's at. That preview driver thing that AMD's got going on is pretty cool. And I'm not gonna lie, the 6600's putting up some pretty good numbers, especially considering the price point on these things. I'd love to see 6600 XT numbers for those. Use mining cards, dump on eBay. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick up. The trouble with AMD cards is they're just not relevant enough. This is why I get so mad at them on the Techonomics podcast and whatnot. Shit, hold on. I don't like the thing. We got to redo this one. I like using Afterburner because the numbers that they put up here, it's like, which one's the real low? Is it this one or is it this one? So I just... I forgot to do that. Anyways, what was I going to say? Yeah, they're just so irrelevant when it comes to market share that, like, I want to buy their stuff, but I feel like I'm wasting money for the most part. Like, this card, I don't feel like I'm wasting money because it's the video card to buy right now for, you know, mainstream GPUs. But, you know, in terms of, you know, the amount of people that will care about the content, you know, 2 or 3 years from now when I go, hey, RX 6600, is it still good today? Is going to be very, very small compared to like RTX 3060 or even 3050. So that's just what's driving me nuts about AMD right now. It's like, why can't you guys just do a thing? 6600 is 28 CUs. The XT is 32. The XT would be great because I can compare that to an RX 570 clock for clock, memory bandwidth for memory bandwidth, and then I could literally show the IPC increases. That's why I would like it. When I got this one, though, they were still over 400, so that's why I was like, yeah, I'm going to pass. I knew that those were going to drop. Today, I probably would have went with the 6600 XT at about 350 instead of this one. I think $70 more. It's probably worth it. They also boost a lot higher and all of that. But that also means there might be more room in the GPU for overclocking, which of course will be, you know, more content. But look at that power draw right there, like 100 watts. I could probably get this thing down low enough that I could unplug the power connector. Yep, looks like Nathan figured it out. I guess the stream delay you got there about the same time I was probably talking about it. As electricity costs go up, those efficient 6600 cards are going to be performance per watt gems. Yeah, they always should have been. I mean, these were always, in my eyes, this card should have always been cut down again. They should have had a third one with 24 CUs at 75 watts and just not even bothered with the 6500s because it would just perform a lot better. So that's what I'll probably end up doing is I'll just try power limiting this to what 75 watts is, see what that performance level would be and be like, why isn't this a card, AMD? Once again, it just goes back to them just not understanding, their business, which just drives me nuts, man, because they have so many good tools in the toolbox. They just don't know how to use them. 101 and 63 on this one. I'll go, yeah, we want to get out of here because this thing just takes forever. Exit game. So 63 and 101. All right, so we're losing here. It's kind of interesting when you think about it because this is a PS4 game optimized for AMD, although it's Polaris that it's optimized for. I think Cyberpunk's the last one we're doing here on GOG. Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, by the way, if you haven't played this Terminator Resistance game, it's a hell of a lot of fun. If you're a big fan of the Terminator movies, this is literally the best Terminator game, hands down. I really liked it. It's like a light Fallout type of game. The RPG elements are very scaled back, which I like I mentioned earlier. I like straightforward, get to the point type of games. It does that, but it gives you enough freedom to where you feel like you're a little bit free. So if you haven't played that, I strongly recommend it. I had a lot of fun with that this winter. By the way, if you're going to buy anything on GOG, I do have affiliate links. They are down below. Click on that, and I make like a penny. But hey, still, it all adds up. Mark is saying, right, the non-existent RX 6700 would be 36. Yeah. There's the 6600 XT was clocked high enough to where it basically made that irrelevant. It would essentially be a push. That's why they never came out with a 6600 non-XT. Which really begs the question why they even bothered having a 40 CU chip and then a 32. I get it. It has 8 PCIe lanes versus 16, and the die size is smaller because the infinity cache is smaller. But why they didn't just make a 60 CU one and cut it down from 60 to 40? You have 2 chips, that's a big enough gap. There would definitely be 2 different tiers. The 6800 would not be relying on Navi 21. Once again, it's just bad design choices from AMD. And they could have really done a thing there. Then 32 makes sense, or maybe it could be higher than 40 and be more competitive with the 2070, do 44, 48 or whatever. Just cut down from 60 would have been a lot smarter. And then a third SKU on Navi 23, like I mentioned, at 75 watts, makes the Navi 24 irrelevant on desktop. And then, boom, nobody's mad at you. Nobody's mad at you. And it would have just made a lot more sense. Cut down to 24 CUs, cut the bus to 96 and 6 gigs. They should just keep the 8, to be perfectly honest. Now, if they have any with defective memory controllers, that would make sense. To go down to 96, because then they could harvest those, which they currently aren't. They're just throwing those away, I suppose. So, yeah, maybe that'd be the way to go, or maybe the memory controller just doesn't get hit enough to matter. GOG should play the new Resident Evil games 7 and 8. I'm not the biggest Resident Evil fan, to be honest with you. Just never was. 62 cut down to 52, die, Rex 37. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they could have done that. Could have done 48. Like, they could have done 3 SKUs on it. They could have done a 52 and, let's say, a 40. You know, just it gives them more tools to work with to be more competitive. And they just didn't for some reason. AMD is still stupid in sizing their dies. Navi 23 600 XT was originally a laptop GPU, so 8 lanes makes sense in laptops. Well, it was always meant to be the budget GPU, like the RX 460 and 560s. Those were eight times as well. But those were your entry-level budget cards way back when. That's why I'm saying, like, the performance is good enough to where it doesn't need to be budget, which is fine. But they should still have made a budget version off of the chip, and everybody would be happy. Everybody would have been super thrilled with, let's say, a 100, I don't know, $80, $200, even $250. 24 CU, because I mean it would be about the same performance level as the 3050 with 8 gigs of RAM, and you know all the things that people say are better about the 3050 they would say about that card, except it would actually be in stock and it would be at that price. So unlike the 3050s, which yeah, I know people are out there saying, yeah, you can get them at $250. Nah, they're still like $350 right now. And 3060s are still 400. Yeah, you might get super lucky and catch that deal or whatever, but if you want to buy one on the regular, that's what they're going for. All right, so we got 5467. And 67. All right. Let's jump on out of Cyberpunk here. And 54 and 67. So just slightly beating out the 1080 Ti. That's supposed to be 54. That's a typo. Slightly faster than this and slightly slower than this. So, all right, not too bad a showing. Still very interesting that this is beating a 1080 Ti, because if you just watch the mainstream content, you wouldn't think that it's quite that fast. All right, let's do some shadow. Got some bugs knocking on the window over there. I'm like, what the heck is that? Let's see, 7 and 8 are the first RE games that I like them, and you can just get 7 for $29 if you want. So you have to understand, for me to buy a game, it's got to be like $15 or less anymore. If I'm not buying it for the channel, it's got to be cheap or super, super good. And it's just not a game that I'm 100% sure that I'd like, so it's definitely not worth $30 to me. You can get $10 off if you get both in a bundle. Once again, it's like, it's just too much. If they're like $9.99, you let me know. I don't care if I'm just throwing away $10, but $30 or $25, yeah. Northern, they're so close. Yeah, they are so close. They're surprisingly close. I bet you've not seen anybody put these together in this order. You know, I figured that they'd all be like right around the same level. That's why I wanted to do the video. But how many people would be buying 6600s if they knew that it's like, yeah, this is basically a 1080 Ti. Meanwhile, from NVIDIA, you can get, for the same money, if not even a little bit more, you're getting 1070 level performance. That's just a terrible idea. 70, 80% off, or overwhelmingly positive review score. I don't even care about the review scores. It's got to be something that I know. Like, you know, when you watch like a trailer, you're like, yep, that one's for me. Like, there's a game called Evil West that's coming out this year. The second I saw that, I'm like, yes, that is a game for me. So, like, that I'll pay real money for because I know for a fact that it's right up my alley and I'll enjoy that one. So, I have no problems paying for that. But if it's a game, it's like, I'm not sure if I'm going to like it. You got to be like less than a trip to Arby's for me to buy you. If I'm buying a game which costs more than $15, like 30 range or less, it'd be better if it's an Ultimate Edition or a discount. Yeah, I mean, Ultimate Editions, Game of the Year Editions, that sort of stuff's cool. The Resident Evils have been out so long, like 7. I think 8's still kind of new, but 7's been out so long. Yeah, you should get the 100% complete Ultimate, you own it forever edition. So yeah, if it was on GOG, that also is worth more money to me because it's DRM free. Once again, I back it up. I own it forever. Those, the game's not going to get updates anymore, so who really cares type of thing. So I'll pay probably like an extra $5 to get it on GOG. All right, let's go ahead and see where we are here. Funny enough, this game was a NVIDIA sponsored title, and as far as I remember, this always runs better on AMD GPUs. It was right around when Turing came out, and it was just funny. Every NVIDIA sponsored title ran better on AMD back then. But then every AMD sponsored title ran better on NVIDIA. It was a weird time. All right, sorry. I got to kind of pay attention because I have to try to keep this as like for like as I possibly can. All right, so 103 and 82. 103, 82. Well, that's interesting. All right, let's get on out of here, and I'll show you boys. According to the Steam price history, it gets frequently discounted to 10. Boom. There we go. Now we're talking. You let me know when it's 10, and I'll pick it up. That's the type of money, like I said. Trip to Arby's for me is more than that, so that's fine. All right, so we had 82 and 103. All right, so this one's definitely behind on the averages. It's almost 10%. And then the lowest on the 1% lows as well. So looks like the 1080 Ti is the dominant one here because it's cheaper than this one. So, all right, that's kind of interesting. Things have flipped around for NVIDIA. Like I said, normally the AMD GPUs are better. So we just got Far Cry and StarCraft. Alrighty. We'll check those out, and then we'll just re-go over the numbers again. So if you guys missed any, we'll talk about them and see if there's any real differences there. There's a few, but yeah, they're pretty similar, as you guys are pointing out. Alright, so we'll do Far Cry. Unfortunately, last time they did that was January. Yeah, well, it'll happen during their big, like, 4th of July summer sale. That's when they have their big discounts. They want you to play Resident Evil so that you will react to the big vampire mommy with the huge milkers. Yeah, well, that's the new one. That's 8. But 7's the one where you're like in a like the woods. It's basically everybody's nightmare. Everybody's had that nightmare where you're like in the middle of nowhere and you meet the creepy family that eats people or whatever. Everybody's had that nightmare before. That's the only reason why anyone's into that game, which is fine. Yeah, see, that sort of stuff doesn't do it for me. But if the game's fun, okay. But if the game's not fun, I'll be like, no. Are you running the new preview driver? Yes, I am. Less than a trip to Arby's, pure gold. Yeah, I mean, that's my standard. I like Arby's. Arby's is a good lunch. Like, if I just want to do something. And it's cheap. It's the cheapest of all the fast food places. I go in, I get 3 sliders, a fry, and a drink. Or the chicken bacon Swiss is my favorite. But that's when I'm feeling a little spicy and I want to spend a couple extra bucks. But I can usually get in there and out for, I don't know, like $15 if my wife doesn't have me buy her a bunch of stuff. But she's pregnant right now, so it's been a while since I've gotten away cheap anywhere when buying food. Middle of the woods when you come across an 8-foot vampire, madam. Once again, that's Resident Evil 8. That one looks more, I don't know. There's like castles and stuff. I don't know. I've seen footage of it because Celso was all about it. He's like, I really like this game, blah, 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 blah. But he prefaced it by saying, yeah, this is basically like a walking simulator, but I really like it, blah, 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 blah. You see that graphical glitch right there, boys? Looks like I was like overclocking and pushing too hard. This is one real issue that AMD has, is there's always a game that I find with every driver revision that just goofs up somewhere. Horizon didn't run at all for me when I had the 6700 XT. Just didn't work. I was able to get through one benchmark run once, and then it just never worked again. And then, like you guys just saw there, we got some graphical glitches, but whatever. Can't do horror. I have a panic disorder. I'm a baby. I mean, you know, some people it's not their thing. To me, it's just boring. Horror is just not interesting to me. I guess I'm just not really afraid of things. But the creepy people in the woods thing, like when your like car breaks down, that works. I like suspense. Like Alan Wake was really good. They don't focus so much on the horror. It's just more the interest and just weirdness of it. That to me is a great game. Would you rather a GTX 783 gig or 6400? If you have PCIe 4, then the 6400 for sure. But if you don't, then definitely the 780. 780 draws a crap ton of power, and it's really not that fast. All right, so we got 139 and 120. All right, let's go back. I literally can't play Outlast but RE8. It's not scary because you have a big boy grenade launcher. Yeah, I mean, that's the great equalizer, isn't it? It's like getting a minigun in a game. It's like, how can you be scared of anything? I've seen Predator. I've seen them just shoot down a whole freaking forest. They're like, yeah, space alien thing. I ain't scared of you. I don't care if you're invisible. I got a freaking minigun. You know when they got scared? When they didn't have the minigun anymore. It's a lot of good life lessons to be learned from Predator. All right, so that's 120 and 139. All right, so matches the top 1% low, and Well, this is where the 1080 Ti is really whipping it out. Those good old DirectX 11 games. These two are just falling behind. I might have to do another one where I just look at DX 11 games just to show how much the difference is switched. It's still hanging in there on the DX 12. And we tested. I've tested Doom on the 1080 Ti. It hangs in there on Vulkan as well. All right, so the last one, StarCraft. Yeah, but they really skimped on the L3 cache for the 6600 XT. I mean, it seems to be doing all right. No, 1080 Ti is actually bad at DirectX 12. It's just so damn powerful that it kind of doesn't matter. That's why the 1080 Ti is just a funny card, because it has enough CUDA cores that it scales better than like the 1080 and the 1070, because those are so heavily cut down in comparison. I forgot what it is. Somebody look it up, but I know, was it 2560 for the 1080? I think this is like 3840, I believe, something like that. I believe a 6700 and below will age poorly. I don't think so. I think what's going to happen is the power draw and everything's going to go up. You're just going to see a divide in the community. But we're already starting to see that games are just not going to be that demanding moving forward. Not the ones that most people play anyway. There's going to be your showcase, like walking simulator type games like we were talking about before. Yeah, those will be super demanding and you need some crazy high-end stuff, but they're going to be super niche and they're going to be very low budget and nobody's really going to play them. Like I would argue right now there's more people playing StarCraft 2 than, I don't know, pick any big budget God of War. I guarantee you there's more people playing this than God of War right now. This is actually going pretty good. I can already tell. When you're getting close to that 400 at this part, that's pretty good. This might have to do a dedicated video on, just DX11, DX9. It's a lot of testing though. I really want to do the CPU stuff, but I don't know. This is my fans just shut off. The GPU's like, nah, we don't even need fan speed for this. And this has the smallest heatsink too. This is the the PowerColor Fighter, where they basically just have like chewing gum wrappers on there and 2 fans. And even that's like, nah, we don't even need to spin. The controversy of 1440p performance on 6600 series cards. Good thing FSR2 is the thing. I mean, even AMD said that these are 1080p cards. I just from the frame rates that I'm seeing, I would completely agree. It's definitely not a card I would recommend for 1440p. But once again, I'm a higher frame rate snob. I like my 90 to 120, but that is me. You could definitely run it at higher. I bet you could do 60 at like medium on most games at the very least. So end game, restart mission, and then we do our bench. Yesterday I was playing Sims 3. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of games that just, they're never gonna die. People will play them forever. Now, I did notice we didn't get that micro stutter on this one that we get on the NVIDIA cards. When that little ship goes kind of across that bridge, there's always like a pretty sizable micro stutter using the NVIDIA cards. So that's kind of interesting. Infinity Cache to the rescue, killing micro stutters. I don't know. I'm just making that up. I can't tell you why that happened for sure, but just letting you know that I've benchmarked this enough here recently that I know all of the little hitches and stuff that normally come up. All right. And there it is. Okay. We got 272 and 201. 272, 201. All right, let's throw this in the graph or in the chart there, and then we'll go over everything. And then I'm going to go to bed, and then I'll do the roundup video. I'll have all the charts. I'll do, you know, the 6 or 8 game average, however many we did here. So this way you can see them all side by side on that video. That'll be up Sunday, probably around 2 p.m. Central Time. That seems to be a good time for uploading. All right, let's get out of here. All right, we had 272. No, that's the 1% lows. 201 and 272. All right, so this is right in between. Yeah, so it beats out the 1080 Ti by a little bit, and then definitely loses to the 3060 in this one. This is actually super impressive. The fact that this is that much faster in this game. Why that is, I could not tell you, but all right. So let's start at the beginning. We'll go through the numbers now that we got them all. Grab a drink. I'm getting thirsty. All right. So, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, we have the 1080 Ti coming in at 115 FPS and 86 on the 1% low. There's 113 and 90, and then 103 and 82. So, these two are basically tied, and this falls away a little bit in this particular game. Cyberpunk, 66 and 52 versus 72 and 59. So, there's a gap there. And then 67 and 54. So, what do you guys say on this one? This is basically a push. I mean, obviously the 3060 has a little bit of an advantage, but I would argue that's mostly a push. I'll check you guys out there. Is SC... No. StarCraft 2 is DX9. All right, and then we got Watch Dogs here, 99 and 77 versus 106 and 84 and 102 and 80. I would say that these two are obviously a tie. That's definitely the case. But yeah, this is definitely a game where the 1080 Ti does fall behind. Watch Dogs is a strange one, though. It is very, very limited in a lot of ways. I don't know why. The graphics don't look very good, but very limited. TLDR, always by NVIDIA, it's the best. No, that's definitely not what I'm getting out of this. All right, then we got ACV, and we got 90 and 59. Then we got 82 and 62. I'd say that that's virtually a tie. And then 88 and 63. Well, not a tie on the averages, but on this is definitely a tie. Overall, I'd say it's pretty close. It's kind of strange that the 3060 is so much slower on the average, but I'd say, you know, the 1080 Ti and the 6600 are virtually tied on this one. And Far Cry, we got the 155 and 120, 144, 116, and then 139 and 120. So, yeah, the 1080 Ti is definitely still dominant in this game right here, but I do like the fact that the 1% low on the AMD is higher, so this just will be a better experience even though you have the slightly lower average, but I mean that's only like 3%, so that I would just argue that that's margin of error. So is this. So basically those are a tie, and there's your winner. Horizon Zero Dawn, 112 and 69 versus the 3060's 114 and 69. So, yeah, that's a draw. And then we have 101 and 63. So, yeah, the AMD card's a little bit behind. Not a whole lot. Witcher 3, 149 and 112. And then we got 127, 103. So, right here, we definitely have that, standing out from the crowd. The 1080 Ti walking away with it on that one, especially on the average. And, I mean, this is basically 10% there, too. So that's pretty damn good. But that's the era of game that, that was designed for. And then we have the 6600 at 131 and 110. So, yeah, I would say that this is definitely a big enough gap on that 1% low. And you definitely have a little advantage here. But I'd say that this is basically a draw. But the 1% low, you definitely are going to notice. And then StarCraft, this is definitely the weird one. 267 and 196 for the 1080 Ti. 308 and 214 for the 3060. That's a massive win for the 3060. And then 272 and 201, basically splitting the difference there. Yeah. So overall, I mean, if we're just looking at this, the 6600 is virtually tied with the 1080 Ti. There are a few games that it loses, like Witcher and whatnot, but so does the 3060. 3060 really only pulls away in StarCraft, which Paul will care, but most people will be like, yeah, 200 FPS is still fine. I would assume anyway, because you're not hitting 360 on that one. Let's see. It does make me wonder if I should overclock for StarCraft 2 or lower settings, because I was running max settings on this because it doesn't utilize GPU that much. I figured it would just be the same. 1080 Ti wins basically in DirectX 11 games. 1080 Ti beats the 3060. 6600 ties it most of the time, and then the 3060 is basically right there as far as I could tell. Once I obviously average all these out, we'll have a more clear picture. But yeah, overall, they're all basically the same. Right now, like I said, the 6600 is definitely going to be the way to go because this is the cheapest option. These are about $300. These are about $350. You do get the extra VRAM, so that's a thing too. So that is worth the a consideration, and it will win in some games. So it's kind of a back and forth, I'd say. The 3060 is obviously the worst value of these, not even close, with this being basically $450. There is no reason not to buy the 6600. Which also makes Steve's thing seem a little strange, where he had the 6600 XT being close to the 3060. I mean, could be the driver. Could be. Throw it out there. That's a possibility. But these two are way too close for me to be thinking a 6600 XT is a 3060 competitor. Okay, just going to go through and check out the chat, see what you guys are doing. 3060 might age better. Maybe a little bit. The VRAM will help, of course. But, 1080 Ti's got 11 gigs, so doesn't help against that one. Minimums are most important, and so technically the 3060 wins Cyberpunk. Well, who gives a shit about Cyberpunk, honestly? Overall, I mean, it doesn't win all of the games. It wins this one, I guess. Well, it's got Cyberpunk. Yeah, maybe it does. It loses here. I mean, a lot of these are margin of error, though, too. You have to take that into account. Loses here. Ties on this one. I mean, for margin of error sort of things, because it's not dominating. It gets dominated in a couple. I guess you could say it kind of dominates here, but it's not dominating the 6600 too bad. It's close enough. That's what, 6%? It's about 6%. So there's a bit there. I don't think it'd be worth the $100 though, personally, for margin of error 1% increases. But hey, it's up to you guys. You can make up your own minds. You're big boys. I just gave you a whole bunch of data for you to make up your own minds. Connor, you picked the worst times ever, man. I've been on for just about 3 hours, and I am exhausted, so I'm about to get out of here. Here's all the data. I'm just going to slide it. I just went over it all. You can just use your time machine and back it up if you want to hear me read them all out, but you can check it out. Overall, they're basically all tied. I mean, we're talking margin of error. Some games AMD will do better. Some games NVIDIA does better, but some games the 1080 Ti is faster than the 3060 and vice versa. I mean, it's kind of what I was expecting, but the fact that nobody goes around saying, yeah, RX 6600 is basically a 1080 Ti, just with 8 gigs. If that's how this was marketed, I think people would be like, oh yeah, this one's available for like $300. That's a hell of a deal. These are $450 for, we were just looking at it. The 1% lows are a little bit higher, but is it worth $150 more? 50% price increase? No. The 1080 Ti, I would actually argue, makes more sense than the 3060 in this market. If this was $400, you could maybe make the argument, but this really needs to come down to about $380. $360, it's definitely the way to go, I'd say. Because of the extra VRAM and the features and all the rest of that. I watched Hub's video. The numbers look a bit different. Yeah, well, that's kind of the point. First off, it could be the drivers. Second off, it could just be the tuned system versus not tuned. Hub's always slightly different numbers, even with better hardware. Not entirely sure on that one, but yeah, I'm just gonna chalk it up to the drivers. We'll see what Steve comes up with when he has to rebench every GPU, or AMD GPU at least, because all those other numbers are now gone. I'm sure that's what he's working on right now, so we'll have to wait and see. But I would throw that video in the garbage that he did, because it's irrelevant now. 1080 Ti has 34% more memory bandwidth than the 3060. Yeah, probably. It's got double the memory bandwidth. I'd rather keep my 1080 Ti. Well, I mean, if you have a 1080 Ti, there is no point in looking at these. In reality, even going to like a 3060 Ti and 6700 XT is kind of stupid too. Really, for the 1080 Ti, you need to be looking at 3080 and 6800 XT level. Which, if you're going to go that route, you're way better off waiting until next gen, because I think you'll be able to get those for probably about $600, and they should be available at that, I would assume. So that sort of level of performance. So you might as well wait a little bit. You can save some money. It's not like the 1080 Ti can't game. Sell your 1080 Ti for a brand new RTX 3060 so Jensen can feed his children. I'm pretty sure Jensen would appreciate that. 6600 XT would embarrass the 3060 and it's still cheaper. Yeah, it absolutely would. The 3060 should never be anywhere near the price tier of a 6600 XT. But people are here's the truth, guys. People will pay $450 for this. People will not pay $330 for this. This is what I keep like raging about on the Techonomics. It's like AMD just doesn't get it. They have to know their place. Like I said, this at 280 MSRP is a killer because it just curb stomps the 3080 or the 3050 in every conceivable way for a couple of bucks more. And that's how it would be framed. That's why I'm saying, like, if they wanted to frame it as a GTX 1080 Ti competitor, like, that's better marketing. That's better marketing. Even for NVIDIA, if they said, yeah, you're basically getting, flagship, the best flagship performance for $300, like, that would be great marketing. Except, obviously it's not $300. I'd rather wait and see what the 4080 Ti is going to do. I don't know. The top end NVIDIA stuff probably not going to be worth it next gen. Not just from the power consumption performance. I also think the 80 Ti is going to be like the rarest GPU next gen. Because it's going to be the one that everybody wants because it's going to look good in terms of price to performance. Like, it'll still be high, but it'll look the best. And they'll sell, like, none of them. It'll be the third chip is how it'll go. Maybe even fourth. Kind of like the 3080 10 gigabyte this gen. They just didn't want to make those. I sold my 6600 XT and kept 1080 Ti because of VR. I mean, looking at the numbers, you didn't lose anything. I mean, it's basically the same. You do better in DirectX 11, a couple DX12 games, it'll lose. Whatever. It's not the end of the world. You could probably undervolt a 4080 Ti to 300 watts without losing performance. First off, you have no idea how much power that's going to consume. There's a lot of assumptions going on there. For something that isn't even out, nobody has any information. Radeon going to Radeon. Yes, it'll probably be rarer than the 6800. That's a good way to look at it. Yes, because people will actually want them. So when they're in stock, they will go. All right, let's get out of here. I own 5 of them. Gaben is my dad. All right, well, we all know that ain't true, Nathan. All right, let's do this. I kind of like not switching around so much. Made my life a lot easier. I was doing a lot of camera switching in the last one. All right, and then we got Connor saying, undervolting the 4080 Ti almost certainly will reduce performance. If that's the case, NVIDIA will ship lower voltages. I mean, not necessarily just to meet spec, but I mean, there's always going to be undervolting. But I mean, we're talking about something that doesn't even exist. We don't know anything about this card. I mean, it could be an 800 watt card for all we know. It could be a 250 watt card. We just don't have any information to really gauge any of that sort of stuff. We could basically guess performance, and that's about it. And we can speculate on availability just based off of, you know, the past few generations and how these assholes like to do things. But yeah, we don't know enough about undervolting cards that are coming out late this year. Well, the 80 Ti is probably not coming out until Q2 next year. Because they need to build up their supply so they can make it look like they're actually launching them and then never really resupply it. 12 gigabyte 2060 is $100 more than the 6600 for 4 gigabytes more RAM. 2060 is dumb now. I mean, that card was always dumb. The 2060 12 gigabyte, that was just making money off of miners. That's all that was. But the performance of that is at least better than the 3050. Like, I would take that for $300 over a 3050 at $250. Now, the 6600 just makes way more sense. Who cares about next gen if tons of cheap GPUs hit the used market? Well, there's always the people that want the fastest or close to the fastest. So, a lot of people care. So if you're asking who cares, a lot of people. I'd say 60% of the PC market care. Probably only half will buy, and the other half will buy used, but, you know, most people care. I'll wait on my RX 6800 for $300. It'll happen. 26 KO, 6 gig, and 2080 was pretty cool in my opinion. You mean the fact that it was just a cut down 2080? Yeah, it was a little strange that they... What's a 104 die? I mean, all they did is cut down a 104 to a 106. I mean, that happens sometimes. What was that? Sell your 1440p and 4K screens, buy cheap. 1080p, 144 hertz, and ride past all the BS. Well, I mean, that's an option too, but that's like the people saying just go out and buy a CRT. Yeah, technically that works, but it's not for everyone. I would actually argue go get an OLED because 1080p looks pretty good on the OLED. It'll actually scale it properly 1:1. We need next gen to test our CPUs. Yeah, it's getting kind of nuts, man. Because I'm gonna use the 3060 with DLSS performance or even ultra performance mode to test CPUs. But I'm sitting there going, all right, so I'm doing 1080p ultra performance mode. That means it's 1/9 the resolution. That means I'm testing at 360p to try to see CPU differences. And I'm talking about my Sandy Bridge CPU. To try to see CPU differences, I have to run a 3060 at 360p. And even then, it's like real close. Like I'm hitting like 89, 92% GPU utilization. I'm like, why? Why is this even a thing? To be perfectly honest with you guys, I don't know. When I started my YouTube channel, nobody paid any attention to CPU, so people were getting shit performance and real stutteriness because they were using like i5s for high refresh gaming and it didn't work. And I did videos on this and people were like, you're totally wrong. How dare you say an i5 is going to be a problem for high refresh gaming? Until all the major YouTubers eventually came around and said exactly what I was saying like a year before them. We're on the complete opposite side now. You really don't need a CPU. Like you can pair a 3090 with this 12100 and it's going to be perfectly fine. Assuming that you're one of the like 99% of the people out there that game at 120 FPS on down. So yeah, I guess that's part of what I'm trying to do here. It's like, hey, I can get this like 2011 CPU to run all the games just fine. Why are you spending a ton of money? Why aren't you buying the cheapest CPUs available? Yeah, I understand. You might want a little bit more. So you get the 12400 because you do some multitasking or you do some work. Okay, you could buy, 5800X or 5700X or whatever. I get it. But why are we talking about 12900Ks? Why are we talking about 5800X 3Ds for gaming? No. I'm not even going to look at next gen with the track record of hardware launches. Yeah, I'm going to be looking at the used market. Like, I want a 2080 Ti sub 400. 350 would be great. I would be very happy with the 2080 Ti. I want to get one with a 888 pin, and I want to test myself. I know Ivan did it, and he was able to get his to basically match a 3080, but that'd be pretty cool. See if I can get it to match a 3080. 12400 plus 130 MSI B660 is very nice. Yeah, that's pretty much the max I'd say 95% of people would need. Only people that are content creators or do heavy CPU workloads would need anything higher, regardless of the GPU. 3090 Ti, $2,000 GPU, $160 CPU. That's all you really need. If you're hitting CPU limits, that just means you need to run higher resolution, to be honest. 4690K, not enough for Doom on Pascal. I've seen that video. Yeah, everybody's seen that video. But it was just hilarious because everybody's like, no, and Witcher. Because back then I was like, well, my GPU is only at like 80% here in Witcher with a GTX 960. I think it might have been an earlier video. And everybody's like, no, it's totally fine. You're good. I'm like, well, if you're not hitting 100% GPU utilization, you are CPU bound. This is how this works. I mean, most of the time. You technically could be memory bandwidth limited as well. I think I had 2133s, though, so that wasn't going to be a problem. But anyways, the community just didn't understand anything. Then they figured out CPU matters, especially things for like 1% low and whatnot. And the pendulum has just swung too far the other way, I think. we need 1,000,000 cores and we need 8 trillion gigahertzes and I need 500 FPS. It's like, well, no, you really don't. You really, really don't. Apparently, the PCSX 2 devs say that Turing is the best at blending used in some PS2 games. Ampere RDNA 2 suck at it. It probably had an instruction set, like some Intel CPUs for RPCS 3 had an instruction set that kind of mimicked what the SP cores on PS3 did. And then the newer ones don't have that. So, yeah. That'd be my guess. 6650 XT, if you're on 1080p, step up to 3060 Ti for 1440p res. I would agree with that. I would actually say the 6600 makes more sense for 1080p. Save the money. But yeah, go to 3060 Ti for 1440. I agree. I'd love to see a 2080 Ti match a 3080. Go check out Frame Chasers, Northern. That's actually how Paul found him. Was he found that video. I actually haven't watched that one. I should probably watch that later. You think a 12900K at 5.4 to get decent frames and Secret Labs due to unoptimization? What's the SCP Secret Labs thing that you're talking about? Let me get this off my screen. Go back to this. Let me do some interwebsings. All right. CP Secret Laboratory. Hell is this? Multiplayer game. Okay, so it's just like a first-person shooter game. Well, I don't know anything about the game, to be perfectly honest with you, so I can't really speak to that. Community still doesn't understand anything. Yeah, it's true. It's like the more they learn, the more they obsess. I think that's what it is. Because it was really funny. If you go back to the Pascal era, everybody was so innocent, I guess you could say. Everybody just was kind of happy with what they had and didn't really care about frame times. And, like, people enjoyed games more back then. People have gotten way more anal about things nowadays. Personally, I've always been bugged by, stuttery frame times, but that's also why I cap my frames, so my recommendation, I said it before, but if you missed it, smart move is you check your 1% lows in a game. So like, let's say your 1% low is like 70, for example, just lock the game to 60 and then you're going to have like the most perfect experience in the world. If you get 150 locked to 144, whatever, depending on your monitor and refresh and all that. And that's the way that you should do it. You should do it for your own system, depending on your own personal 1% lows. Don't just like go check my numbers, be like, this is what Chris got with this hardware. You got to test it yourself. If you're one of those people that want to have that like premium, ultra buttery smooth experience, that's mostly me. But there are people that don't care about the jank. They like the jank as long as they get the higher frame rates. I mean, everybody's different. So it's really up to you to decide. Pascal was some happy times. We were blissfully, most of the community was. I stopped caring because hardware had got so fast. I mean, I'm back from the days when, you played GoldenEye at 10 FPS, and you played the shit out of it too. It's not like you're just like, oh man, this looks awful, but I'll sit here and play it. No, you didn't really care. I mean, you did. We all did. We were like, this could be better, but we still had fun with it. So, like, to me, everything just got so damn fast that I just stopped paying that much attention to the little things like overclocking and all that other stuff. Because, you could buy a $200-300 GPU that gets you, 100 plus FPS. So it's like, who really needs to do any of this stuff anymore? Well, now these assholes are charging so much. Now we got to get back to the basics, and that's, you know, spend as little money as possible and get that experience level that you want. Before that, nobody cared about having fast RAM for games. Yeah, well, back then there was no high refresh monitors either. Not really. I mean, CRTs, but all the LCDs were just 60. I'd rather get I'd rather get premium hardware just to last. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. The trouble is I'd say most people in this community do not hold on to hardware. It's usually one, at most two generations. Basically, once the value gets so low that it's just not worth selling anymore. Like if you buy a CPU for $300 and then let's say they're worth like 40, you're not even gonna waste your time. It's gonna go on the shelf. That's when you'll keep it. But usually people will want to sell before it gets to that point. So this way they can recover some and then reinvest. So yeah, I would argue very few people buy and hold. I only buy and hold when I buy old stuff, to be completely frank. You know, when I buy an Intel Extreme Edition $1,500 CPU or whatever for $40, yeah, I'm going to hold on to that forever. You know, might as well. In fact, the main reason why I keep buying the Extreme Editions is because they're actually going to start going up in value eventually. They typically, the bottom I've ever seen is the $30 price point, but they just go back up because once the supply dries up, collectors will want them. So honestly, the smartest thing that you can do if you were building a gaming PC is to buy flagship CPUs when they hit that like $50-ish price point and then hold on to them, resell them at like $300 or $400, make a huge profit, and they seem to hold up really good. So you'll be able to get away with it. So that's the extra added benefit to those. Just to give you a heads up, the 5800X 3D is also going to be one of those chips. It will be worth a whole lot of money in the future. So if you could find them for real cheap at some point in a couple of years, you know, the $100 to $200, I'd say definitely pick one up and just throw it on the shelf for a while. Old Rockstar games had such bad frame times. Yeah, that's why they were having a lot of trouble with the GTA remaster because the old games were just so bad. The PC version wasn't too bad though. You can lock to 30 FPS. You have to run it at 30 though, and it's actually pretty good. Before I forget, awesome stream. Thanks. I have to work now. All right, Marcus, get out of here. I'm gonna have to go to bed. I have to be up in, I don't know, like 5 hours or something. But you guys are chatting. You guys are chatting about stuff that I like to chat about. I guess you wanted to leave me to do the benchmarks, or you were mesmerized by them. One of the two. I play PS3 and Switch often, so I'm used to low FPS and res. Yeah, I mean that's fair too. PS3 was really bad. That's why I prefer RPCS3 because eventually it'll fix that. You know, all those frame time stutters and skips and all of that. It'll just take a while before that's perfect, I think. I decided leaving my 6800 XT undervolted. Okay. Never had a 300 watt card, but got down to 250 watts, same clocks, and maxed out the memory slider. So it's probably the down clock 18 gigabit chips. Yeah, probably. It's probably better bin. Q9450 for free, so I was happy to have it. Yeah, those were pretty good chips. Those were stupid expensive. Those are actually still kind of expensive, believe it or not, for what they are. The Q9000 series, those still cost way more than I'm comfortable paying. You can get like any other quad core, Core 2 quad, except for the extreme editions, of course, and those. But most of them you can get for like $5. Basically, you pay the shipping, they'll give it to you. And yeah, those are still like $30, $40, $50, $60 for the non-extreme editions. I'm like, get out of here. And then the QX 9770, those are like $200 or $300. So I'm just like, wow. Yeah, collectors come around. You just have to wait for the value to crater. That's why I immediately picked up that, what was it? The 3950X. I saw that for $40. Cheapest one you can buy now is $50. So I've already made, 25% on my investment. It's in the future, it'll be $300 or $400. And if I happen to need $300 or $400, there you go. I could sell it. In the meantime, I get to play with it, and it's actually surprisingly good. So yeah, if you keep your eyes out, same thing goes with GPUs. A lot of people are like, oh man, one of the guys on my Discord is like, I feel bad for the people that bought a Radeon 7. Radeon 7 is going to be worth probably 5 figures for the special edition in the not too distant future. You get some crazy lunatic AMD nut job who happens to be a millionaire and wants to collect every AMD graphics card there ever is, 5-6 years from now. And you're the only one on eBay with a $20,000 Lisa Sue edition Radeon 7. Guess what? They're going to buy it. And yeah, I knew that was going to be a big one. Vega Frontier Edition, the Vega Liquid, that's going to be a big one. Fury X, maybe. I don't think they made a lot of those. But yeah, those sort of things, they just give crazy money. Flagship versus high-end GPUs both become obsolete at the same time. One isn't any more future-proof than the other. Flagships aren't any more future-proof. Yeah, no, you don't buy flagships when they're flagship parts. You buy flagships when they're at their absolute bottom price point. And then you use them for a few years. Basically, you use like 4 or 5-year-old flagships. That's the smartest way to go. I missed my Radeon 7, but somebody gave me $1,700 for it, so I couldn't say no. Exactly. Like, they got stupid expensive. I don't know. It would have been hard. I would have probably sold mine too, to be honest, even though knowing that I would say the regular vanilla ones will probably be $2,000 or $3,000. You got super close to that anyway, so you're like, whatever. Inflation's going to eat up that extra gain anyway, from 5 years from now. But yeah, it's those red ones, the Lisa Sue edition ones. I guarantee 10, 20 grand. Easy. And you paid $500 for it. Yeah. So can't be mad at that one. Radeon 7 is the last commercial GPU with HBM2 for collectors. That's huge. Exactly. Also, the history of it's interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why people would want it. It's going to be right up there with the Titan V. But once again, there's the Titan V, but then there's the Titan V CEO edition. Just like the Radeon 7 had the special edition with the red shroud. Those are the two that are going to be worth insane money because they made very, very, very few of them. Trouble with Titan V is like buying that on the cheap is still like $1,500, $2,000. I don't think it's ever been anywhere near $1,000. So that was a big investment. But like what My Little Pony did, $500 for Radeon 7. Those got pretty cheap. HBM2 gaming cards and under 2,000. That's going to be a while. Yeah, probably. Heard Radeon 7. Heard about Radeon 7. It's crazy. Yeah, it was terrible. Like, as a commercial product, it was just bad at every single level. The problem was RDNA 1 was delayed, and they had to do something. Alrighty, boys. We've been going for 3 hours and 10 minutes. It is time. So I had a lot of fun. This is great. Like I said, if you want the TLDR version, I will be making the video for the main channel. That will come out Sunday. I'll make pretty graphs and all of the things. So this way you can go, ooh, ah, and collective, you know, do the 8 how many games did we do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so 8-game average. So this way you can just have the nice little chart and we can see them all next to each other going, oh, but that one's like 0.8% faster. They're all about the same. I mean, we already know that. Yeah, buy the cheapest one that you can, if that's kind of the price performance tier you're looking for. But I think most of you guys out here watching, you guys probably already have the cards that you want for now and are waiting for next gen. But if you were on the fence, maybe for a budget build, secondary build, friend, I would go with the 6600. Seems to make the most sense. Then the 1080 Ti, and the one that makes the least sense is the 3060, just due to its price point right now. RGB graphs. Well, it's going to have blue or red in there. So there's that. So I'll get one of the three. One of the three will definitely be in there. Yeah, Titan V's are insane. Ivan will pay good money. If you know anybody who's got one, he's not going to pay $3,000 money, but I bet you he'd pony up $1,000. So if somebody had one and was like, yeah, I just want to unload one of these. And I'd kind of like to see what he could do with that, because he'd be the crazy asshole that will, like, he will basically destroy the thing just to see how fast it'll go. But I'd be very interested to see if a Titan V could compete with like a 2080 Ti level card if pushed to the max. But anyway, guys, that's it for me. Just a heads up, we will be doing these live streams here on the Good Old Gamer Live. I'm going to switch it up. Next week, we're going to do Monday, Thursday. Like I said in the original thing, I'm going to kind of play with the days, see what makes the most sense. Doing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday live streams in a row, it's just a bit much. So I'm going to try to break it up a little bit. So next one will be on Monday. Main channel video will be Sunday. And then, of course, I will be live on Saturday with Paul, or not with Paul. Actually, I'll have Ivan from Frame Chasers will be joining me. Paul will be out of town. So if you're not subscribed to all the things, you know, click the links in the description below, all the YouTube stuff. If you want any information on any of the parts that I used, all of it is listed down below with affiliate links. So if you are interested in buying any of these, if you do that, I get a couple bucks. Really appreciate it. But yeah, that's really all I have for you guys here today. Hope you enjoyed the stream, and I will catch you guys in the next video.